I actually can't believe that people are surprised by this. I feel like I feel like I'm not surprised at all. I the general consensus on this is that everyone is shocked that that a team would do this when, like, where have you been for the last 6 months to 2 years? Coaches get fired at the drop of a hat all the time.
I think it's because the success was so like the success when he got there versus the like how he had been before. It was just such a contrast. You know what I'm saying? Like this is the easily the most successful Knicks coach in 30 years,
Mhm.
probably, right? Like, and I think, I do think that people are still kind of catching up to this like idea that I think the reason why this one is because I think that even though we would look at like firings, like for example, I think of Frank Vogel as kind of the start of this, like when he got fired from the Lakers, where it's like the coach dying for the crimes of the front office, you know what I'm saying? Like kind of created this and it kept happening like over and over again. Like Bud got fired twice. Um, None of those guys, I don't really ever feel like any of that was like really their fault. And I don't think like what are the sheer odds that the Knicks get a coach that's a better coach than Tom Thibodeau?
Well,
Like,
let's look at all of the coaches that have been fired that won a championship and what their teams have done since then.
yeah,
Let's go back to 2019. Start with 2019. Nick
yeah,
Nurse leaves Toronto. They still suck.
yeah,
The Lakers fire Frank Vogel. They're on their next coach already. They fired Darvin Ham and they made a conference finals. Okay, but also Anthony Davis and LeBron James got health luck and they made a trade at that deadline to improve their roster. They got rid of Russell Westbrook, which was
yeah,
really the thing that was ultimately holding them back from reaching a higher ceiling. Okay, 2022 or 2021, the Bucks fire Bud. How's everything been going with the Bucks since? Have they won a playoff series? Okay, let's go on to we could do this the whole time. Malone just got fired in the middle of the season. Obviously, they reached a similar height. I think they you could even argue that they did better this year because they lost to the team that is probably going to win the championship as opposed to last year with
yeah. In seven, like
yeah,
probably is gonna be the team that pushes them the hardest. Like
sure.
probably, like yeah,
But ultimately all of these coaches end up being fall guys as you said for front offices when it always is at the point where they have no moves left. There's nothing to do other than
right,
fire the coach. We've spent all our draft capital.
yep,
Our young players aren't getting any better. They've hit their ceiling. There's no development to be made except for let's fire the coach because that's the easiest thing to do. Now, it's not to say that Thibodeau was a perfect coach by any means, but like you laid
no,
out, their best coach in 25 to 30 years.
yeah,
The first time they've been back to the conference finals in over 25 years. The
yeah,
first time that they have been a team that has had multiple playoff series wins back to back seasons since that. He got them to the playoffs with a dog shit roster his first season. Remember how bad that team was when they hired him during the
yeah.
COVID season and he got them to the playoffs?
I mean, Julius Randle like was on that team, but like he wasn't Julius Randle. Like, I mean, he that was his first season being like the Julius Randle that we know. You know what I'm saying? That was
Sure.
his first All NBA appearance, if I remember correctly, right? Like,
Yep.
yep. So, and like they've gotten better every year. Is the other thing too. Like they've gotten a little bit farther in the playoffs. There's been a pretty steady trajectory of them like getting better. Now, obviously, like the roster is changing around that. Um, I do think this was like a little bit premature given how the season went. You know what I'm saying? I think Thibodeau getting fired tells me that they were planning to fire him no matter what happened in this playoffs. It
Exactly.
basically regarding the Pacific because they actually overperformed pretty substantially relative to expectations. I think so. I think that's why people are surprised because I think people assumed that once they beat the Celtics, Tibbs had like saved his job because like they had beaten like a real contender, like they had shown, regardless of what you think, they were 2 wins away and one of like the most devastating playoff collapses I've ever seen in game one from being like in the mix to go to the NBA finals. And I know the Thunder are gonna curb stomp whoever gets there. If you make the finals, you have a shot. Like, like Shea could get hurt in the fight. Like, look what happened to the Warriors Raptors. You know what I'm saying? Like that nobody gave the Raptors a shot, and 2 injuries, boom, the Raptors win the finals.
Sure.
Like if you're in the finals, you do have a shot. So like, I don't know. And they were pretty close. I would not have, like, even if I wanted to fire Tibbs, I would have, I think, for the optics, like gone one more season, waited to have the cover of like what will probably be their upcoming like round one loss. You know what I'm saying? It feels like they're kind of due for a little fall back to earth season, this next one, but you know, we'll see.
I think that they wanted to avoid doing what teams do, which is they fire the coach too early the next season, where they get into the season and they go, okay, so let's say the Knicks start 5-9 next year and everyone's miserable and the vibes are bad again, which is funny because that's the other part of this is that you just laid it out. They really should have been going to last night should have been game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah.
If it isn't for that horrific collapse that, look, were there some things that happened during that stretch that maybe Thibodeau could have avoided? I guess, but also like they missed multiple free throws and the Pacers literally turned into the greatest shooting team of all time for 3 minutes. Like it felt like a random event as opposed to like a calculated misstep by the coach. And that happening avoided them even getting a chance to have a game 7 at home. And as you laid out, they were almost certainly going to fire him because, I mean, the Celtic series win was the best win that they've had in forever. The fact that they got to the conference finals, we just laid all of that out. But the fact that we, in addition to them getting to 6 games against the Pacers in the conference finals, I know they might view that as a disappointment because last year they got to 7 games with the same Pacers team in the second round, and then all their guys got injured and they didn't have a chance to, advance further. But like we got literally within 10 minutes of them getting eliminated, we got an Athletic article about how miserable the vibes were. And this is a team that made the conference final. Like, I know obviously it's funny with me saying this as a Sixers fan. My like bar for like a good season is if you make the conference finals. Like, I feel like if you make the conference finals, unless you are like, for example, if the Thunder lost in the conference finals and got smoked in the conference finals, we would be having a completely different conversation because the Thunder won almost like 70 games and had like they were expected to just win that series in the way that they did.
Yeah.
Whereas with the Knicks, like, I think the thing that honestly, Bill was kind of cooking on this after they went down 3-1. I don't know if you listened to that pod with Zach.
I missed that one. What did he say?
So basically what he laid out, and this might be part of what the front office is thinking. This might be what part of ownership is thinking, the team is thinking in general, which is that for anyone who missed it, basically what happened was he said this year was a very unique opportunity because of how the board broke for the Knicks. So for example, the Sixers never happened. They were just kind of DOA for this whole season because of injuries and because they were just a mess. The Bucks obviously completely underperformed due to the fact that they just really did not have a ton of talent. And the Cavs completely choked against the Pacers. The Knicks knocked off the Celtics. And then they get this Pacers team that if you had said 4 months ago, oh, we're going to get the Pacers in the conference finals as the Knicks, you would have said, well, this is perfect. Like we have an opportunity to make the NBA finals, to win the NBA finals potentially. But because they essentially fumbled this opportunity, this is the reason why everyone is so disappointed, essentially. Like they really felt like they had a shot to actually make the finals because of all these other things that happened, like the Cavs choking and all the other teams. But my argument against that would be, is that not also going to be the case next year? Like what is changing? Jason Tatum's out for the whole season. Giannis might get
Yep.
traded. The Sixers, we still have no idea whether Joel's going to be available. The Cavs are to this point are basically the new Sixers. They have not proven anything in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
I would say that the Knicks and the Pacers right now, obviously there are moves to be made this offseason that could potentially change that. But right now, I would say those two should probably be the favorites again next season in the East.
Probably. And what's funny is I don't know if I would pick either team to win over 50 games. I mean, like,
I would definitely pick the Pacers to win over 50 games.
Yeah,
I think they figure something out here. I really do think that. And also think about it like this.
Yep.
Every time a team, even if they lose in the finals, I know that I might be using history a little bit here when I probably shouldn't be using history because this playoffs and this season has been so weird and different than everything else. But it feels like when a team either like reaches a conference finals or reaches the finals and loses or whatever happens, the next season they come back with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder or they have figured something out. Now, obviously there's always injury luck. There's always a lot of different things that can happen nowadays in the NBA because one team gets decimated by injuries every year. But it does feel like because the Pacers have this unique style, because they've now been playing together as a team for over a year and a half, they've kind of found their footing and they've been on like a 60 plus win pace since January.
That's true. No, yeah. And definitely. I mean, I will say, like, every season is different, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't roll over. You know what I'm saying? Like, the opposite could happen, like, next season where, like, the Pacers are just, like, gangbusters out of the gates, like, number one seed, and something happens, like, Neesmith goes down, or Miles Turner goes down, or something like that, that, like, totally changes, like, the way that they have to play. Or, like, a better example would be, like, Halliburton just randomly is shooting 31% from three. You know what I'm saying? Like stuff like that happens to these teams all the time. Like,
it happened to them earlier this year.
Yeah, exactly. I think the Magic will be on the same tier with the Knicks, and especially after this offseason, I think they're going to be on the same tier as the Knicks and the Pacers come.
All right, well, let's see them acquire a single NBA level guard before I make that proclamation.
They got two chances. They got two chances in a good guard draft.
We'll see. The slop that we heard today was that they might not even be making those picks and they might be trading them for a player. So if that's the case, that's actually probably a good thing for this argument because I think putting a rookie in there is who knows if a rookie can play or not. If they trade both those picks for a win now player, and it's a guy like a Kobe White or Anthony Simons or something, you might like their chances a little bit better of winning like 55 games or whatever in the regular season, just because you know that guy's going to be good to go is what I'm trying to say.
I was just saying that the Magic, I feel like we kind of like forgot how injured the Magic were, and like them not having Jalen Suggs did, I really think make a difference. So like honestly, I think even if the Magic run it back and have relatively good health luck, you know, I'm not sure the Magic, like, are you sure the Magic lose to the Knicks and the Pacers?
I mean, I feel pretty confident if they don't acquire any guards. I'm to the point where if they don't acquire any guards this offseason, I think that I'm writing them off. I think they're not a serious team to be. I just can't take them seriously if they don't. Even with all that stuff, bro, they had like the 29th offense in the NBA. Like
I get it.
You have to have. I know your defense is really good, but like you have to have something on offense for me to take you seriously.
I mean, what are the Thunder? You know what I'm saying? Like, they're like what?
The Thunder have the
MVP
greatest defense of all time and the MVP of the league.
That's what I'm saying. They have the MVP of the league, and they're still like what 10th in offense. Or
I mean,
something
they
like
were
that.
certainly higher than that. This is not. This is to say one team that has Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and compare them to the Orlando Magic. It's just
no. I mean, I'm not
absurd
saying. I'm
on
just
its
saying.
face.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that also a tremendous amount of the Thunder's offense comes from their defense. Is the broader point that I'm trying to make here, and I think that the Magic are going to be in a spot where their defense is going to be better. They have enormous size. I think they're going to translate pretty well to the playoffs. I think that they're the team that ended up matching up against the healthy Celtics. And they didn't have the benefit that the Knicks had of a couple of nasty like 3-point shooting games. I don't know. I think the Magic. I watched that Magic team in the playoffs. I feel not identical to the way I did when the Celtics swept the Pacers last year, but I was like, that's a playoff team that belongs. I didn't feel like the Magic were terribly different from the Knicks, and I'm
Yep.
not like
I will
I'm not.
respect them when they acquire one guard.
Yeah,
A single guard,
okay,
that's all I ask. If
sure.
they don't do it again, then I'm going to
easy-
be like, why should I take you seriously at all?
Yeah, I'm just saying like having a guard is like it's also like the easiest thing to get like in the NBA, which is again
It
why I
should
didn't
be.
really like
I
the
agree.
De'Aaron Fox
It should
trade.
be. Should be. We're on year 3 of them not having one.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. So I think the Magic will be in there. I mean, I know like Cleveland. I don't know what to make of Cleveland. They also like got hurt. You know what I'm saying? I know it's easy. I don't want to like make excuses for Cleveland, but they did like get. There were injuries involved in that. So like I don't know. I think I guess what I'm saying is I would run it back as the Knicks at my own peril. I do think the Knicks need to add something. I don't think they can just run this team back and expect to make the conference finals again.
So my thing is that I think right now that it would be fine if they ran it back, but also used stuff on the margins to improve their depth a little bit. So like if they are able to get someone, it's tough because they're like a second apron team and they don't have a ton of ways to acquire talent. I know one of the ideas that people have thrown out there is like, could they get Al Horford now that Tatum's out next year? And maybe you could try to go get someone along those lines where it's like a vet guy that you can trust off your bench that gives you a little bit more versatility. Once again, people have said this time and time again about the Knicks, which is part of the reason why I think they fired Thibodeau, is the fact that they have no moves to be made, really. No major moves to be made. And people keep sending me Cat trade ideas, and I'm like, Cat was traded for the last time. There's no team that is paying Cat $55 to $60 million a year, even though, by the way, I know Cat has all of his issues, and Cat has the defense and the especially people pointed this out, and it was very obvious when you were watching that last elimination game in the Pacers series where Cat was like basically not able to ever get back on defense, and the floor balance was all fucked up, and it led to a ton of offense for the Pacers. Cat has his flaws, don't get me wrong. He's also been to back-to-back conference finals now. Like, I know his teams were very good, and historically his teams always perform a little bit better with him off the court in the playoffs. I don't know if that was the case this year, to be honest with you. I didn't look it up. But Cat also was part of the reason why they hung in that series. I mean, they were literally on death's door in game 3, and Cat scored 20 points in the fourth quarter of that game and, helped lead them back. The core issue with this roster build, and by the way, I still don't think they could trade Karl-Anthony Towns. I know when we had Noah on, we discussed, would they ever stab Jalen Brunson in the back and trade him for Giannis? I don't think that's happening. I just want to put that out there. I think that them making the conference finals I think their fans would be mad if they did that. And I think
they definitely would be mad. I think Brunson's like their guy.
Of course, that's what I'm saying. But I also think it's kind of like, how the ongoing joke for years was that the Democrats were afraid of the Republican base?
Yes, yeah.
I feel like the Knicks organization is got to be a little bit afraid of their fan base.
Yeah, they are. They definitely are.
They threw a fucking party / riot outside of their stadium when they made the conference finals. Like, they turn the fuck up. Like, they will January 6 you if you end up stabbing them in the back, even if you acquired one of the 3 best players in the world for Jalen Brunson, I think.
Well, so that was what I was going to say. I was waiting for you because I was going to do a big thing of looking at my watch, reading off that today is June 3rd, 2025. Jalen Brunson will not be on the New York Knicks in 25 months.
25 months. Okay, so that's 2 years from now.
2 years and like free agency, like free agency, like in the draft, like for
so I think that he is right now. I think he's like absolutely, like I said, their guy who they're building around. And ultimately, while once again, I understood why they did the Karl-Anthony Towns trade. We remember how all last offseason we were like, they need a center. And because Mitchell Robinson was out, and then they get Cat, and then they find out, well, Cat isn't really a center. Like, Cat is a power forward who you kind of have to play him at power forward because of the defense.
Yeah.
And the thing that everyone has been talking about, which is that the issue with this roster build, you can nitpick with Josh Hart not shooting the way that he did last playoffs. You can nitpick with how well the team performed with Mikal Bridges on the bench at times. You can nitpick with all this stuff. But ultimately, what it comes down to is if you're building around Jalen Brunson, Karl-Anthony Towns can also be on the team, is my opinion, if you want to win a championship. Now, if you want to make the conference finals and win playoff series every year, that's totally fine. But I think that duo, while they're going to be amazing offensively, even though they didn't really lift each other up all that much this year, and maybe that's part of the reason why they fired Thibs. But I think if you're going to put that duo together, it's just going to be a really hard needle to thread, as I say all the time, when you're trying to beat 4 different teams in a row that won't eventually get to a point that they can exploit that weakness because you have 2 limited defenders on the court at all times. And I think if you gave Leon Rose true serum, he would go back and he would not do that trade. Even though if their goal is to win a championship, I don't think they do the Cat trade.
See, but like, what did they give up in the Cat trade, really? You know what I'm saying? Like,
maybe
cost-effective.
one of those 2 trades. Maybe the Mikal
Bridges one.
Yeah.
I think the Bridges trade is because even though like Mikal has the stuff for it, I think what I would do if I were serious about winning a championship, because everything you just said is true about your 2 best players not being able to play defense and like the inherent flaws that come with that. I think you look at the math on that, you look at who has trade value, what the important thing is, and I think you come to the conclusion that if you really want to get serious about trying to win with this Knicks team, you have to stab Jalen Brunson in the back. That is, if you want to get serious, if you want to be serious about winning the title, you have to get rid. Look at the on-off splits for Jalen Brunson lineups. Look at how everything worked when Jalen Brunson wasn't on the floor. Look at the fact that they needed him to play like the best defense he could possibly play. It was still mediocre, and it was barely enough to get them over the line in Game 5 against the Pacers. Like, I just it seems like that's the obvious thing to me, but I think you're also right that they are terrified of their fan base. Like, I don't think they're going to Celtics Isaiah Thomas him, in quite the same way.
There's no way, dude. Like, I just once again, the reason why they're here, I think you can point to a few different things. I think Leon Rose being hired, I think Julius Randle signing with them, which was like now seems like a huge thing in retrospect. Thibodeau turning this shit around, and then the fourth thing that really made them like a legitimate team was the Brunson hiring his dad. They have a relationship. You would have to fire Leon Rose is what I'm trying to get at here. And he's done such a good job of turning this franchise around that they would never do it. Like, it's almost stupid to waste time talking about this because it's just not going to happen. So once again,
I don't know. He's an agent. I'm just saying.
It's not going to happen, dude.
All right. Let's see. When the rubber meets the road, when it's his
job. Okay, maybe 2 years from now, if they lose in the playoffs back-to-back years, it's a different story. I'm talking about right now. And I'm trying to think what they will do this offseason. And once again, I still think that the big question marks for me come down to can you make the Karl-Anthony Towns? Because what kind of coach are you going to hire is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, that's another big part of this. Yeah.
Because what I'm trying to say is that they probably are going to hire like a cute, like X's and O's, Mark Dagnall. I guess was Taylor Jenkins along those lines, like kind of coach.
The small bean genius man machine.
Right, but like that's probably the kind of coach you want to hire. Because your defense is going to be your defense. That's just kind of how it is. Your offense, I think, can reach another level. That's what I'm trying to get at. What I'm trying to get at is that they need a coach that can help optimize their offense with Karl-Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson in a way that Thibs didn't. Because as good as Thibs is as a floor raiser, I think we've literally compared him and Doc to DeMar DeRozan, where
Yeah.
they can get you, like, especially when DeMar was like still good, like they can get you like a borderline level of competency, and they
Yep.
can help. But at the higher levels, they prove to be unwilling to adjust, and they're not flexible. We saw it again with Thibs in the playoffs a little bit, where like he didn't make a lineup change until what was that, game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals when they were down 0-2.
Yeah, I mean, well, and somebody just said it in chat. Shrek just said it in chat. You know who would be fucking perfect for this Knicks iteration is fucking Kenny Atkinson. Like you need someone who could get like figure out, because that is the thing that like Tibbs did bad with, is you played the same 7 guys all like season, and then you get to the playoffs and you finally fucking play Landry Shamet and like try out some of these different looks, and these guys like pop off, but you don't have any lineup. These guys have no chemistry. There's no anything because you never played these lineups really like in the regular season. So
Well, to
you
be
need to
fair,
like
they did play some of these lineups, but they only did because Mikal Bridges was bitching about being run into the ground.
yes.
That was the
Yeah.
disconnect, and they didn't try to change it. Like the minutes police jokes that everyone made about Mikal Bridges and how he went to the media to complain about it. That wasn't until what, like February? Like, so
Yeah.
the once again, the stubbornness of Thibs and the kind of my way or the highway. And I'm not going to act like he's the most creative coach in the world, but he really does give a shit. Like he gets guys to care. And that's a large part of coaching, is like getting the most out of your best players other than the X's and O's, is what I'm trying to say here.
Yeah.
Like
Getting the buy-in. Yeah.
Getting the buy-in. And like that is
Yeah.
that's the thing that now maybe it does have a stealing to it. Thibs has never been to the finals, even with a lot of good teams, good rosters. Thibs has never been to the finals. He's been to 2 conference finals now, I think. Also has had crazy bad injury luck with the Derrick Rose thing.
Trill, walk with me, okay? I just had a
Okay.
thought. So tea leaves are starting to report towards Giannis being traded.
Okay.
Would Doc Rivers want to stay there? Would
Doc
Milwaukee
gets
want to pay
traded
him?
again.
Doc, I don't even think Doc gets traded. Doc just like there's a mutual parting of ways with like Doc leaving money on the table, like to go be the Knicks head coach. Like,
Go.
tell me that's not like perfect. Tell me
Yeah.
that's not where this is at. Because Doc, it sounds like, because correct me if I'm wrong. Was I reading today that like kind of the process was that like Dolan and like the front office interviewed the players before they made the decision, and like, you know, Doc's a player coach, he's a politician, like
I mean,
he
he's literally
loves
the same
ultra
guy as
talented
Thibs.
guy. Yeah.
I even think he might be worse than Thibs at this
No,
point.
he is, but he's also a player coach though. You know what I'm saying? Like Tibbs isn't really like a player coach necessarily. You know what I'm saying? Like they're the same type of guy, but like Doc has this front facing charisma that Tibbs does not have. You know what I'm saying? Like,
That's definitely true.
so like I think that even though I think like Doc is technically like a worse coach than Tibbs, I think it's like absolutely possible Doc Rivers could get like brought in, because I think what they're looking for, I think Leon Rose and ownership and everyone, I think that they think the roster is talented enough. I think they're really just looking for chemistry and a coach that they will play for them and will get tuned, won't tune them out. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't even think they really necessarily want a coach who's.
But that's the thing, is that like
Yeah.
half of the roster loved Thibs and half of the roster didn't love Thibs. Like Hart and Brunson, very clear. I think there was like factions of the
Yeah.
locker room that fuck with Thibs, like Mitchell Robinson,
Yep.
and then the other half was like the new guys, Cat and Bridges, and they didn't really like Thibs all that much. And once again, all of the article, that if you read the article, pretty much the whole article is just bashing Cat. And it was basically like, I don't know what to tell you. You traded for Cat. Like,
you did this.
You literally made the sandwich. How did you not? How are you complaining about Subway? Like, Cat is Cat, a wildly talented person who is also the most frustrating player to have on your team. Every Timberwolves fan could have told you this if you did your research. It has always been the case with him. And the guys in the locker room learned very quickly that this was the case, and that, look, they happen to be talented enough to figure it out and get as far as they did, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is partially a credit to Thibs. That's a huge part of Leon Rose and Jalen Brunson and kind of how far they've been able to get this team. But I don't know if you saw this, by the way. Well, actually, before I get into that.
Yeah.
People have been throwing this out there.
Okay.
It's never going to happen. But
if
they hire Jay Wright, there was a rumor.
Isn't he like a hard ass though?
Yeah,
dude. Yeah, like I feel like that's like not a culture fit with like this Knicks squad.
No,
like
it's not. I mean, Cat. Yeah. There's no way Cat would like. If they keep Cat, which I'm assuming they're kind of stuck with Cat. I know people have said to Kevin Durant, that's not happening. Both of those teams are second apron. It's impossible to make a trade happen anyway. It's not happening. Don't worry about that. The second thing is that I know people who know Jay Wright. Let's just put it like that. Uh-huh. And they have all told me like he would be a horrible NBA head coach. Like it's just a different ball game. Like he's not going to kiss stars' asses. He's not. Now look, obviously he coached 3 of these guys before. Maybe he would get along better with this specific Knicks team. But the stories that I've heard about Jay Wright, he is not someone I think is going to be someone who NBA players are going to love to play for in the same way that college players do.
No, not at all. It reminds me. Remember, like when Woj's like last hurrah of being a scumbag was pretending Dan Hurley was going to get the Lakers job.
Yeah,
and like it set off similar alarm bells where it was like, no, he's not. Like Dan Hurley is a psycho. Like there's no way that he's gonna be able to do that.
Yeah, exactly. It's just not. It's just two completely different sports. Like the way that you approach college basketball and the way that you approach the NBA. Like Steve Kerr would be a horrible college coach.
Yes,
but he's a great NBA coach.
Yeah. You need because he respects the people he coaches as fellow human beings and isn't a satanic dictator.
Yeah, exactly.
In order to be a college coach, you need to
first off, be number 1, registered Republican.
Yeah, registered Republican. 2, fail one of those tests they do for like serial killer screenings. You know what I'm saying? Like ask any college coach and they're like, yeah, as a child, like I would disappear a lot of the pets from my neighborhood. I would like torture cats in the back alley. Like every college coach, like men and women's, by the way, like I'm saying
across
every single college coach. It doesn't even have to be basketball. Every single college coach of every single NCAA sport has killed at least 1 to 3 domestic animals as a child. Like that is a fact. I'm saying it right now. Yeah, proven right now. Like ask anyone. Like Brad Stevens, I know he's genial. The second he took that Butler job, that was 2 gerbils and a goldfish.
Why do you think he's a really good GM? It's a different game. You know what I mean?
Yeah. GM. Yeah.
If you
they handed him a gun. He failed the old Yeller test to stay at Butler. He was supposed to put the Butler Bulldog down, and he cried.
If you've ever inspired an episode of Criminal Minds, then you can be. I wanted to ask you this.
Yes.
Who do you think is currently the longest? So all right, let's just get this out of the way. The longest tenured duo of head coach and front office is the Heat, which is Spo and Riley.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you know who 2 is now that Thibs has been fired?
Let me just run through.
You're never gonna guess it.
Just give me like 2 seconds. Is it Pritchard and Carlisle?
It is not.
Okay. It's probably someone around that though. Is it Dagnall and Presti?
It's so close to both of those 2. It's not those 2.
Okay.
What is this? Karnisovis and Billy Donovan, who have won 1 playoff game with the Chicago Bulls. They were hired just before. If I remember correctly, I think Donovan was hired just before Dagnall because he was the OKC coach, left for the Bulls job. Then they hired Dagnall right after that. And then Carlisle, I believe, was the next year was hired by the Pacers. So how amazing is that? They deserve it.
Real shit right there. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Well, they did build a
God.
contender, to be fair. I mean, the Thunder are in the finals.
Will Hardy and Danny Ainge has got to start to be getting close, right? Because that was 3 years ago,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
and Hardy just signed an extension, and Austin Ainge was still. I mean, look,
So awesome.
when you do such a great job with a rebuild like Danny Ainge has done with the Jazz, you
Gotta
get a
bring his
treat.
son in.
You got to
Yeah.
bring in your son. You know, you absolutely should get the benefit of the doubt, and everything that you think is a good idea should be followed, because clearly he's done a great job.
Here's the thing. I was thinking about this the other day. Danny Ainge has done a good job Mormon style
Mm,
in that he is doing multi-level marketing schemes
pump and
with
dump.
the draft picks. Yeah, the pump and dumps. You know what I'm saying? Like that is like Mormons run on those. They're the only community in America that can do those because they're one of the only communities that has like um social fabric in America today.
Hmm.
So there's like trust. So like they could like all like sell Avon to each other and it's fine. Um like so I and that is similarly Danny Ainge is continuing to get an extension because the social trust is just there as you know the Church of Latter-day Saints is the undergirding force here. We need, you know what, this is why we need the Church of Scientology to buy the Lakers. I'm just saying that would cook. I'm just
Tom
saying, like,
Cruise at every game.
yeah, I think like I know they've won like somewhat recently in like the Genie Bus, like actually the Genie Bus like era has been like pretty successful since she like wrested the team away from her idiot brother. Like, but I can't really argue with that. By the way, she kind of girl bossed on that one. She's actually like done really well with that, but like she should just sell the team to Tom Cruise and like as the figurehead
Well,
for the
Mission Impossible's done.
Scientologists.
He's got a lot of free time.
Yeah, he would do like I'm just saying they would do so good at getting stars via blackmail and other underhanded terms. Allegedly. Don't sue
Giannis
me.
is just
Don't sue me
walking
with this
around.
woman.
Giannis is just like on vacation, walking around Hollywood. He sees a sign. He's like, "What is that?" And he walks in. And they're like, "Do you want to be successful, Giannis?
Yeah, this has
Do you
gone
want
clear.
to?"
Oh my god. I mean, don't they? I think like sex addiction, if I remember correctly, like sex addiction is like one of the ways that they're like have it make inroads with like celebrities and stuff like that. So I'm just saying,
Perfect.
Giannis is very vulnerable. Like, let's just,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
we gotta protect Giannis. Don't let Giannis near LA. Don't let him near the Church of Scientology.
So, so yeah, this is I mean, this is wild. Another coach, RIP, another coach down. I
Yeah,
can't believe that this has happened to our baby boy.
no,
Tom
poor Thibs.
67-year-old Tom Thibodeau, our boy.
He was just a fucking kid, man. He's just a fucking kid. So sad. His fourth NBA head coaching job had to end like this.
So
Wait, no,
fucked up.
wait, is it his third? No,
Third. Bulls,
it was
Wolves
his
in
third.
this.
Oh wow.
He's done a really
Third.
good job everywhere he's gone. He just is Thibs. That's
Yeah,
the
he's
thing, is
just
like,
yeah,
once you accept that he's Thibs, even the Minnesota thing obviously didn't go great.
yeah,
But keep in mind, when they had Jimmy Butler, he got hurt in that season, and they were really good.
yeah.
And then he got hurt, and then he forced the trade before they, and then Tom Thibodeau got fired shortly after that. So like he actually he's done a good job everywhere he's gone. He just had a little bit of bad luck in Minnesota. I mean, he absolutely turned the Knicks around in a way that it could not have been. When they hired him, I was like, it doesn't matter.
I
And
will say, sorry, you go. Sorry,
no, I was
didn't
gonna
mean to
say,
cut you
like,
off. Yeah,
the fact that, like, I normally am skeptical on any coaching hire truly mattering, but I think in this case, this one did. Like, I think that, because I think that obviously the front office coming in around the same time is a huge part of that.
yeah. I was just gonna say, I do think that the front office like I do think the front office was more responsible for their success than Tibbs was. I will
I
say
don't
that.
disagree, but I also
Yeah,
think what Psycho Dolan said was that basically what they were doing for years wasn't working, because they were chasing, like, kind of sounded like almost like fiendish, where he was like, we're chasing the next big thing. You know what I mean? Where
yeah.
he's like, we're always
Phil
looking,
Jackson.
yeah,
Mike D'Antoni.
Right. Yeah. We're let's sign this star. Let's trade for this guy. Like, it never worked. And the thing that Thibs did, and the front office too, but Thibs specifically, was he came in and was like, even when he had a dog shit team, was like, we're gonna play this way. We're gonna like actually give a shit. And he did create somewhat of a culture and made them respectable. And then from there, players kind of wanted to play for them. And that's the thing. The margin for, we've talked about this before, where the margin for error in a big market is so much bigger, because if you're even somewhat competent, like the Clippers or the Knicks or the Nets of a few years ago, players will see that and say, I want to go play there, because there is an appeal, there's an allure to playing at Madison Square Garden, to playing whatever. And that is a part of the reason why I don't think that half of these guys would have wanted to play for the Knicks in 2017, is my point that I'm trying to get here. And he was a huge part of that. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely don't think like Tibbs like deserve to be fired. Like, honestly, most coaches these days like don't really deserve to be fired. I don't think. Like, again, like you laid out, like you said earlier, like it's just kind of the move that a front office makes when they're out of other stuff to do.
Exactly.
So yeah, Monty Williams, notable exception. He was turbo checked out. I've never seen a man more checked out than Monty Williams was.
We already knew that, though, when he literally said he wanted to retire, and they were like, but what if we gave you the most amount of money ever? And it was like, okay, yeah, any coach is not going to, I mean, we kind of just saw a similar thing with Bud this past season, but Bud at least lied about being like excited. Oh, I have connection to Arizona. I want to go coach again. And really what it turned out was like, he kind of just wanted to bag and probably wanted to bounce and realize it was a mess very quickly there.
Yeah. Man, I love, by the way, speaking of Suns coaching, I'm loving these updates that we're getting. It's so good.
Johnny Ott. What's his name? I'm sorry. There's something Ott. I was like, who are these people? I know Johnny Bryant, but something Ott. Connor Ott. I don't know.
Yeah.
But you know where he went?
Otter.
You know where he went?
Hiring the Otter. No, where is that?
Michigan State.
Oh.
And by the way, do you think that they're going to try to trade for Draymond like they did at the deadline because he went to Michigan State? And if Jace Richardson falls in the draft, do you think they're going to draft him?
Oh.
I think that's possible.
Oh my God, Jace. I think it is too. I don't want that for my beautiful Jace. Do they have a pick this year? They do.
They're like 29. Yeah, I think they have the Cavs pick. Remember, I laid out that horrible trade they did.
Yeah, they swap. It's like a swap on a swap.
It's not even a swap on a swap trade. They traded their unprotected first to get the worst of 3 different firsts.
That's right. That's right.
A few different times. So, and they've already used another one of those picks to salary dump Nurkic, so that they could, and they got Micic and Cody Martin, so they could probably dodge an apron this upcoming offseason if they need to. So it's pretty grim there with the Suns right now. I mean, everything that they're doing is the exact opposite of what I would be doing. To be completely honest with you, like
they just keep doubling down over and over again, and like making it worse by like they like keep like extending how long it's going to be bad by like 6 months every time they make a move. Like
exactly,
it's really bad. Like it's such a bummer.
So they keep doing that, and then they're like leaking that they're like. At first, they're like, maybe Brian Windhorst was like, I don't think Kevin Durant's going to be traded. And now, like, every reporter's like, yeah, no, they're telling everyone they're trading Kevin Durant. And I'm like, okay, great. Like, this is the message you want out there. Like, come fleece us for Kevin Durant. Like,
yeah. No, we'll get rid of him, like, for anything. Like, just come, just
get this loser off our team.
Yeah, just get him out of there. I wonder, have we talked about the Kevin? I guess we did kind of like before. I guess we've talked about it a couple of times now that I remember. The Durant thing is so fascinating to me. I just don't know what the package is going to look like. There's like 3 different levels of package you could tell me, and like I wouldn't be shocked. Like you could tell me a team gave up like kind of a lot for him, and I would believe it. You could tell me he like got traded for like a swap, and I would believe it. Like, I'm like not even kidding. Like, I have no idea what his value is going to be. Like,
so I think it's probably going to come down to. I think there are 2 teams that realistically could trade for him, and I think we've talked. people keep saying the Spurs. I'm sorry, I don't see it. Like I've said it time and time
Why?
again. Well, for two different reasons. One, the Spurs don't have good players outside of the players they won't trade. Like
Yeah.
they're going to keep Wemby and Fox and Castle. They're
Yeah.
going to draft Dylan Harper with the second pick in the draft, and then they're probably gonna. Who are they? Like, I mean, unless the Suns are really high on Jeremy Sohan or
Keldon
Devin
Johnson.
Vassell or Keldon Johnson. And like, if Devin Booker's your best player, don't trade for Keldon Johnson or Devin Vassell. Like that.
Yeah.
Once again, you don't need any more like guard. I guess Keldon can be a little bit of a wing, but like just stay away from that. Go for positional need. If you're keeping Devin Booker, you're better off trading for Julius Randle. Really, like
I think the Spurs are bozos. Like I just don't like. I think they could trade for Kevin Durant because it's a bad idea. You know what I'm saying? So
Sure.
like that is like the one thing that I do think is like true. The Spurs have like not really done anything. Like even them drafting Steph Castle, who like I think is like definitely a good pick for like where they picked him, and everything else. It was also kind of the obvious pick on the board at that point in time. Like he had slid pretty far by that point in the draft.
I mean, it was you would have taken Klingon, but also I
Yes.
probably would have taken like Ron Holland or something. But also at the same time, I understand they had first off they had two picks. They traded the second one. The
Yeah.
the thing about the Castle pick that I think that's probably one of their few good moves. I would say.
Right.
Like
I think that's their best move.
I think that's their best move, and maybe also trading the pick for the Minnesota thing. That might have been a little just because trading
Yeah.
the pick that became Rob for a unprotected first and a swap that many years out. There's a chance that
Yeah.
could turn out one of those picks could turn out to be pretty good. I mean, look at what's happened with the Celtics right now. That's what
Yeah.
we talked about where you
Yeah.
never know what can happen with a team where, maybe you get a swap years out. And that's probably been their best moves have been those future looking swaps and pick trades.
Chat's pointing out they traded the pick in the Fox trade.
Oh, they already traded it?
Yeah, apparently they already traded the Minnesota pick in the Fox trade.
Okay, well then I guess I have to take that back. I understood the Fox trade at the time, but it's not. I'm not saying it's at this level of bad, but remember when the Bulls traded the picks for Vucevic, and then Zach LaVine immediately got COVID and their season went into the shitter.
Yeah.
So
it's pretty much identical to what happened. Yeah.
But the difference is that the Spurs have got the lottery luck. They jumped up to 2. And like sure, Harper and Fox and Castle might not be a great fit. Who cares? Like I'm kind of to the point where like if you think Harper could be a superstar, you can either trade De'Aaron Fox later, or you can trade Castle later if it doesn't fit. And you can figure that out. But having said this, you might have been right in that they probably shouldn't have rushed to make the move because they would have been able to trade for someone who is a better fit with those Harper, Castle, Wemby core.
Yeah. And, I think Nate pointed out, like, just now in chat, like, De'Aaron Fox is expiring. And,
they have to extend him. Yeah. And at the time of the trade, everyone said they were going to max him. I would not max him now.
No, you can't.
There's no way you can max him.
That's like the thing that kills you is like maxing because he's not a 10-year guy, right? I think he's like 9 or 8 or something like that. Like
he's going to make a lot of money. I think he's in year 8 or 9.
Okay, so he's a 30% max guy because what kills you is 35% maxing guys. 30% max in this like current cap environment when nobody has cap space, that fucking hurts, especially if you're 30% maxing a guy, it's got to be a guy who has a shot to make all NBA, in my opinion. Maybe he doesn't make it every year, but it's got to be like a guy who's got a shot. I'm thinking like Trae Young or something like that. And I think that he's like the next step down, in my opinion. De'Aaron Fox is kind of the next step down, where he's had 1 or 2 like really good seasons, but like most of the time he's like more in the all-star mix than he is the all NBA mix. And I don't know, I don't think you can max him. And the good news for the Spurs and the teams that trade for these guys who are expiring is these guys now have no leverage. who's going to pay you that money if it's not those teams. Like, do you want to play for Brooklyn? Because that's like your only option right now. Like, and next year that will probably be your only option. I haven't done like a cap inventory for like, we're not really going to know until this next season of draft cycles to know who's going to have the cap space next year. But I'm willing to bet it's not going to be a lot of teams. I'm willing to bet it's only
Yeah.
going to be like one or two teams. Like they're probably going to be bad. It's probably going to be the Wizards. It's probably going to be the Hornets. It's going to be teams like that. So,
I agree. And that's the thing where I think if anything, the Harper pick probably hurts De'Aaron Fox the most, to be honest with you.
yes.
Where now when they're looking at their team build and they're saying, okay, well, I know we have Castle and Harper on rookie deals, but if we want to maximize Wemby's rookie contract, maxing another guard on top of those two, and then unless they trade one of Harper or Castle, and look, I've heard the reports. I still think they're just going to stay at 2 and just take Harper. I've heard the reports. All right, so I'll just say what I've heard behind the scenes and what people have been saying publicly. Like
Yep.
Kristen Peak, I think her name is. She used to write for Yahoo as the draft person.
Yeah.
She reported today that Malawatch was on their radar at 2. HP Basketball did his normal thing where he says a bunch of stuff that doesn't really mean anything. Where he
Yep.
said, like, he tweeted, like, I've heard stuff about Dylan Harper in 2, and I'm not sure if I believe it or not, so I'm not going to say it. And everyone's like, what are you going to say? Just fucking say it. I'll say what I've heard, which is that teams are interested in trading up to 2. Like, I've
Yep.
heard that there are multiple teams that would. Now, I don't know how much they would give up to trade up to 2. All I've heard is that at least 2 teams I've heard of are very interested in trading up to 2. I can't say the names of those teams, but those 2 teams, they're not the Sixers, by the way. Just want to point that out. It's not them. But there are 2 teams that could potentially make a move to jump up. And if the Spurs like someone else that they think fits better, whether it's Malawatch, if they want to do double bigs with Wemby,
Yep.
whether it's, I don't know, Khan because of the shooting and maybe they think he can play in multiple guard lineups and he'll be available a little bit later, whether it's one of these guys that they think is more of a better fit, they might have an opportunity where someone a little bit further down the board blows them away with an offer, and they don't say no to that, because I still think that they're in an advantageous position is what I'm trying to get at here, where they kind of controlled the board,
Yes.
because the Sixers at 3, unless a team falls in love with Ace Bailey, there's really, or VJ Edgecombe, one of those 2 guys, there's no one blowing the Sixers away with offers, and the Spurs kind of hold all the cards here. So
Yep.
we'll see if that happens. I think that they've kind of been a little bit, the Fox move was surprising because they've been a very conservative front office to this point, and that was like a big splash. I don't think they're going to risk it. I think they're just going to take Harper, but I have heard that there are teams below them that absolutely want to trade up.
I think you're damning yourself with a half measure. I think it's a no-brainer to trade back if you're the Spurs. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I don't think, now am I saying that like there's no way Harper's going to be better than Fox, or like if that's the right, no. But here's the thing. You've made, where we are in time right now, you've made the Fox trade. Like that is it. I think if you trade Harper, or if you pick Harper, like, are you letting De'Aaron Fox walk? If you're trading him, you're probably not getting that same value back. I don't think guards are very good. And here's the other thing is, other thing is like, I'm not like sure Harper's like the second best player in this class. I'm positive Cooper Flag's the best player in this class. I'm not positive Harper's the second best player in this class. And if I'm not positive a guy's the second best player in the class, in there's like a lot of guys I think are pretty similar to your, well, you guys have talked about it. I listened to you, Dred and Mark,
Yeah.
talk last week about where Philly is at, and why that puts Philly in such a hard spot is because there are all of these guys with pros and cons. And I think Harper has kind
Emphasis
of,
on Khan. Anyway,
yeah,
continue.
con, absolutely.
There you go.
But yeah, but I think Harper has kind of evaded the micro, like kind of a, the microscope has not really been on Harper. And I think that is I think he's kind of skating a little bit. I guess is what I'm saying. Is everyone has just kind of been like, yep, he's two, and because he's been like mostly good, but like, and he was like, look, he had like a very impressive college season. I'm not like saying he wasn't, but I'm just the other guys below him are getting viciously picked apart in a way that I haven't seen anyone put to Harper. And I think
Because
that
Harper's kind of been the no-brainer number 2, and then everyone just
yeah,
moves on. Whereas I think everyone has their one guy that they would want to put in the same tier with Harper. Whether
yeah,
you're an Ace Bailey guy or a Trey Johnson guy or
Carter
VJ
Bryant guy.
VJ Edgecombe, I hate you. I'm going to shoot you in the face. If you really like someone, there's someone that you want to put at least close enough to him. I don't know if it's in the
Yeah,
same tier, but in like half a tier down, basically, is what I'm trying to get at here.
yeah,
And my whole thing with that is that I think that there's plenty of prospects in that like quote unquote next tier down that you could make an argument have just as solid of a resume. When we posted the last episode where we talked about Harper in general and what we think of him, we both like Harper. We're both like in on Harper. It's just the fact that it's like the surefire no-brainer number 2 thing that we might have a little bit of a disagreement with. But like,
yeah.
I think the thing that the one comp that I have not really understood for him is I don't get the Cade Cunningham comp at
No,
all. Like
no.
I
It's like
Cade
they're like
as a prospect,
opposites
I was gonna say
almost.
Cade as a prospect, especially. I mean, was like a mid-range 3-point shooting, playmaking. Now, look, did Cade also, is Cade also someone that operates in the pick and roll and could do? Yeah, absolutely. But I think of Harper more as like as prospects. I'm not saying as NBA players. I think of him more in like the SGA or Fox mold, where like
Yes.
he's like a rim pressure downhill threat, but he's not quite as athletic as like a jump out the gym Fox type. So
Yeah.
he doesn't really get that, but he's definitely more of like his best skill by a mile is finishing. And
Yes.
Cade was
Correct. Yeah.
more like craft in the mid range, shooting,
Yep.
playmaking, like Harper is more in the if he can get downhill and use his craft inside, he can score on anyone. And that's I think that's his superpower, and he has to develop the other parts of his game to get to the point where he can, reach those levels of whether it's a De'Aaron Fox all-star or a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander fucking MVP is another question.
For sure. Jonathan says maybe they mean he's like Cade because he's a guy Sam thinks sucks, but turns out he's very good, and Sam was wrong. Um, by the way, Jonathan, I loved Cade in that draft,
I was gonna
so
say
I turned
pre-draft
on
I'm
him.
talking about here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Also,
I thought Cade was like I had Cade as like a John Wall style like number one overall pick. Like I thought he was a no brainer number one pick, and when Detroit won that lottery, I was like, yep, it's fixed for them now. Like they have their guy, and I was right in the pre-draft. I just I got him getting injured. The fact that it took him 3 years to be good was scared me. But
yeah, and also, I mean, I think that draft definitely Cade Mobley was more of a debate. I remember people being like, Cade should go 1, but it's not out of the question that Mobley should go 1. Like this draft, it's obvious that Flag is a tier up from all the other prospects, whereas in that
yes,
draft, it was like more like you might put Mobley in the same tier or a half a tier down in the same way that I just talked about the gap between like 2 and 3 in this draft, where I knew a lot of people who were like, I know Chuck had Mobley number 1 on his board.
yep,
There were popular draft people who were like, hey, like like Mobley is that guy. Like it was, and I wasn't super tuned into that draft, so I can't really
yep,
say all that much about my own opinions. I loved Mobley once I got to see him a little bit more, but that was after the fact.
yep,
But the thing that I'm trying to get at here is that with that comp and with kind of where the Spurs are at, it is a little bit concerning to me. The thing that made me crack up was that I went back and I was reading some pre-draft profiles because the Thunder are in the finals. We'll talk about that. I was reading some yeah, okay.
they made the finals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, I had no idea. Blue Jean baby.
Your
Telling me now for
mentions
the
weren't on
first time.
fire at all.
No one
No.
brought it up to me.
Nope.
No one brought it up. I wasn't I wasn't in New York City with like my hotel thing coming out, and then also like the menswear the card things like both together on my statement at the same time.
Let's
Like
go.
my hemorrhaging money. It's like, oh god.
You
All
will
right,
not
it's
be
fine.
owned.
I'm not owed. I'm not owed. Oh, me and Nico Harrison, the only two ethical guys who stand on business these days. I
But
understand exactly what Nico was going through. It's hard to die for your beliefs.
I went back.
Okay.
I went back and I read Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's pre-draft profile. And this blew my mind because people have been comparing Dylan Harper to SGA. When I see it a little bit for sure. Like I understand
It's
the
it's a better
similarities.
comp than Cade for
Yeah,
sure. Like
yeah.
like and some of these, like
They're
y-
all gonna be like, and once again, this
yeah,
is the thing I hate about comps is that everyone takes them super literally, and I'm like,
yes,
it's a general play style more than anything else. It's not like a
yeah,
1-for-1. Like you're never gonna find a 1-for-1. Even Kobe
yeah,
to Jordan, there's differences. But
yeah.
the thing that I'm trying to say here is that I went back and I read some of SGA's pre-draft scouting reports because I kind of just wanted to refresh my mind on, what people thought of him. I remember during that cycle, actually, there was a guy who made the argument that SGA had the third best chance of becoming an all-star in that draft. I wish I could find this fucking article, but he said the best chance of becoming an all-star was Luka. The second best chance was Jaren Jackson Jr. And the third best chance was Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I was like, he absolutely cooked. I mean, obviously he
Cook, yep.
missed Trae Young and Brunson, but also small guards. Like I understand. But the thing that I'm trying to get at here, his pre-draft comp on NBADraft.net, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, was Ron Harper.
Very funny.
It's like a full circle fucking moment here
That's very,
that Dylan
very
Harper is now
interesting.
getting Shai Gilgeous-Alexander comps in the draft.
Yeah. I mean, well, do we think that maybe that's why? Is that another reason why Dylan Harper is kind of locked in it too? Because having your best comp be the current MVP of the league probably like doesn't hurt. Like,
I mean, we see this every draft cycle where certain guys get boosts because, like, for example, I like Clayton a lot, but Clayton will get a boost because it's like, well, Jalen Brunson was a 4-year college player or an
right,
upperclassman, and
right.
he led his team to a national championship, and he was going to be that will help Clayton. We do this every cycle where there's one guy that we might over index in the current moment, and anyone who gets relatively compared to him, whether it's playstyle wise, career wise, that they might get a little bit overrated. I mean, I think if you were to ask Calcrat Twitter for the draft stuff, Chase Richardson being compared to Tyrese Halliburton is probably an example of
Yep,
that as well, where he
yep.
might get a little bit overrated by the draft Twitter people because he has some similarities to Halliburton in college. But the finals, we do have to talk about the finals. that's a thing.
Well, do we?
It's a thing that's happening, folks. It's undeniable.
The ratings are going to be so bad.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
the ratings are going to be bad.
Why even have the finals?
Just the ratings are they're going to be bad, folks. I hate when there's like two teams win and then they play each other. Is so fucking annoying. It sucks so bad.
So
Like,
we're actually boycotting the NBA finals. That's why we wanted to have it. As
bad for the league.
as coastal elites
Yep,
who only support massive markets,
yep,
we will be boycotting the Flyover finals. We do not
yep.
approve of anything that happens in the NBA
No.
finals. The best defense versus the best offense. The two young superstar players. Oh, gross! Absolutely disgusting.
No,
Also,
no bad players really on either team. Like,
gross.
no, but
Absolutely gross.
don't want anything to do
Yeah.
with that.
No.
Like,
I
you
think
want me to tune in? Give me 36 minutes of TJ McConnell. Otherwise, I'm not watching.
what I was going to say is that also another factor on top of this that people are really not discussing at all is the fact that these flyover teams in the heartland of America extracted resources from the coastal elites in Los Angeles with the Clippers and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and the pick that
Yep.
became Jalen Williams. and then took advantage of the little Sacramento Kings and stole Tyrese Halliburton away
Yep.
against their will.
Yep.
And now they're like, why are we rewarding this behavior?
It's the federal subsidies. You know what I'm saying? Like I think that is,
California makes all the money, and we got to spread it out across the rest of the country.
Yeah, you gotta give it to those those flyover states. Like it really is kind of, if you think about it, it is like very similar. So, but now we're gonna have at the next governor's meeting, we are gonna have the backlash to that, where you want to contract the commissioner government. You want to make it smaller. You want to have Doge. They're going to appoint the Doge for the NBA.
Yep.
Yeah, Ethan Sherwood Strauss is going to run it. And they're gonna reduce the league to 6 teams. And you're not allowed to talk about trans rights or anything, or have Pride Night or anything like that. That'll alienate the working class. So
what we're gonna do is we're gonna play the playoffs up until the finals, and then once the finals are set, whoever has the better point differential up until the finals wins the NBA finals, and then we just have the Lakers and the Knicks play in the finals every year for the ratings. I think that's the best way to solve this problem.
Yeah.
It's like we're doing like a soccer tournament, but then also we get an extra LeBron versus the Knicks game.
It's like the Lions and the Cowboys playing on Thanksgiving.
Exactly.
You just have them in the finals every year. They win that. Two other teams could win the other title, but it's the Knicks and the Lakers always play the last game of the year. So
it's only fair that way,
Yeah, it should have like a Harlem Globetrotters style, another team like that just comes out to get their ass kicked by them. Unfortunately, it'd probably have to be the Celtics, which I can't endorse, but might have to be our teams actually. Yeah. So here's the thing with the finals. I'm picking the Thunder in 5. I've gotten owned too badly. I'm just gonna give up the ghost right now, and be totally honest. I was actually genuinely impressed with how badly they handled the Wolves. You probably were right that the Wolves were just not as good as I thought they were.
It was a reset year for the Wolves. That's why I didn't get why people were like so high on them as like winning the finals. I was like, they were kind of like, I don't think when they made that trade. Now look, did Randall perform great in the first 2 rounds? Absolutely. I'm not taking that away from him. What I'm saying is that I don't think that they said Mike Conley's old. Karl Anthony Towns makes too much money. We got to figure out a way to make this a little bit more long-term instead of right now around Anthony Edwards, because he's a superstar. And what did they do? They took a step back, and they still got as far as they did the year before, and they lost to a better team this year.
That absolutely true. I do think like Randall was so much better in the playoffs than I could have ever imagined. I know that he stunk in the Thunder series, but like I still think that Randall playoffs was pretty much found money.
He was great against the Warriors.
Yeah, I do think like Naz Reid having a tremendous stinker was a little bit alarming. I do think they got a little cover with how bad, like Nickeil Alexander-Walker kind of having some struggles too. I think like they're pretty much almost certainly going to let him walk. I would be really surprised if they like decided to like keep him. So like they reset some of the stuff. I still think the Wolves were like a pretty good team and like should have been like a pretty good defense. And yeah, I mean, the Thunder just like really took care of business. That series was never close in the way that I thought it was going to be. There was really none of those games were like very close. I still do kind of believe that the Thunder could like run into trouble in games where games that look like it happened in the Nuggets series, and that series went long, where when the games are close down the stretch and the Thunder can't play from ahead. Bill was cooking. Bill, did you hear Bill say the same thing, that like the Thunder are built to protect leads? Sure. Like if the Thunder are up 8 or more, is like that's when you just get killed, because like you're trying to make up that gap. You turn the ball over, that ignites. It cycles on itself, and that's
it's their own version of when the Warriors just would get hot from 3.
Yes, exactly.
But it's not. And once again, both of those things are left up to variance. Like There are going to be games where you can't hit those shots, and there are also going to be games where you can't turn the other team over, and you're going to look mortal in those games. Even the best teams and their superpowers aren't always the most consistent. Having said that, I feel the only thing that I feel vindicated on is that I said this after the second round. We way overreact to every series. We're like, when there isn't a team that is, and you could make the argument the Thunder are this team, to be clear. But when there isn't a team that is just like ethering teams, like the KD Curry Warriors the first 2 years they were together, or first year they were together, really. When there isn't a team like that, I don't think we should take too much from a team struggling against a team that has the best player in the world, that won the championship 2 years ago, that is always better in the playoffs than they are in the regular season. And also on top of that, like, that was their mountain to conquer. I felt like that was the matchup that once they could get over that hump, that they would not face a team that was going to push them quite as much. Now, I do think people are underselling the Pacers a little bit, to be clear. I actually think this series is going to be like a competitive 6 games. I don't think it's going to be like a Thunder destruction in a way that a lot of people do. I think that the Pacers are the most wild card team we've had in so long in the playoffs that I don't really think that there is a perfect way to prepare for them, because they have all of these moving pieces. We've talked about this the whole playoffs, where like Pascal Siakam is not, by the way, I don't want to spend too long on this. Absolute woke nonsense that Pascal Siakam won Eastern Conference Finals MVP, in my opinion. I know he was really, I know it doesn't matter. I know it's a fake award. I know whatever. I'm sorry. If Pascal Siakam was their best player, and if Halliburton played like shit, I would be like, you got to give it to him, whatever. Halliburton had like 3 amazing games in that series. And I know they won the minutes with Pascal, and like maybe were not quite as good in the Halliburton minutes. If they didn't have Tyrese Halliburton, they'd be the Atlanta Hawks, dude. Like, give me a fucking break. Like, I'm sorry. I do think that has to give you like a massive margin over someone, unless you completely shit your pants, to be clear. Like, if your team wins in spite of you, then that's a different story. But anyway, I'm not going to spend too much time on that.
I just, my pushback, Tim Bontemps has never been wrong on the fact that everyone was mad at Bontemps about that. Makes me think that the right award was right. I did like that we got like race discourse because of it. Like, because
I didn't even see that.
Yeah, they were saying there was some there was some
pro Cameroonian Tim Bontemps.
Yeah, they were saying it was anti-light skin to it was why that it happened. So
he was going Umar mode.
Yeah, I was gonna say there was some Dr. Umar discourse after the conference finals, which was
now listen,
something else.
I've been watching his IG lives, and he makes some really good points.
There's a guy, his name's Dr. Yakub. I found out about him. This guy, look, you don't have to like him. I'm just gonna say he really changed the world. Bontemps Dr. Umar, that would be a fucking movie. Like, let's just put that out there. Like, we need to get
they should link up.
They should link up. I think Bontemps would be in there saying, like, I mean, I just don't think you can write off. I know Dr. Yakub is an evil man, but I'm just saying, like, there's been a lot of good things that came out of white people. Saying stuff like that. Anyway, not to digress. So that was the other half of what I think. Thunder in 5 is like the median outcome for this series. If you told me the Pacers won this series somehow, I would not be like floored.
I would be pretty floored if they won the series. I wouldn't be surprised if I wouldn't be floored if it goes 7. I think they probably win in 6, and there's a world where they win in 5. Like, I don't see the Pacers just being, once again, the Thunder have played the Pacers really well. Do we really care about the regular season anymore? Like, I feel like you could throw most of that stuff out the window. Yeah. Having said that, this is why ultimately I feel confident about the Thunder winning the finals. They've obviously been the best team for the whole season. Like, at this point, it's undeniable that they've been the best team. I've said time and time again throughout this, even when they went down in the Nuggets series, I said the Warriors, the first time they won the championship, they were down to the Grizzlies in the second round. They never got down more than one game, but they won very clearly and were the best team that season. The Thunder have the tactical advantage. The one tactical advantage I feel like the Thunder have in this series, and we'll see if they end up going to it, is that I don't think the Pacers are going to make them pay if they decide to go small. And they've been able to run teams off the floor when they go small in the playoffs. I've talked about this, where if they put Chet at the 5, there are lineups they can access that are like the best lineups in the playoffs by a wide margin.
If that happens, Pascal Siakam versus like Caruso or whoever that is, it like turns into like the make or break like matchup, like in that.
And I just don't think that because the reason why the Thunder only struggled with the Nuggets is because the Nuggets have the most interior size of any team they faced, which is that, and skill, to be clear, because obviously the Wolves also do. I talked about why I didn't really worry about that as much coming into that series. Because the Jokic-Gordon, even with Porter Jr. playing like shit, but the Jokic-Gordon factor of just size, rebounding, interior presence, ability to score around the basket, consistent rim pressure from their outside guys. I feel like obviously the Pacers have a different style where they, once again, they are the most unpredictable team. They've been shooting 41% as a team from 3 in these playoffs, which is insane. And also, I don't think it's going to be sustainable for another series. I just don't think that the Thunder's defense is going to allow that to happen for a whole series here. And I think that they haven't faced a point of attack defense quite like this Thunder team. I mean, the best point of attack defenders they faced are like OG Anunoby, and Miles
Bridges,
Miles McBride. Like, I wouldn't even say Bridges is a good point of attack defender anymore. Like, I would say like OG and McBride, and like the Cavs have no one, like a Okoro, I guess, like, but he like is like a spot.
It's like DeAndre Hunter.
Yeah, like, that's not.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
And like the Bucks, that has been their biggest weakness for 4 years. Like, it's like 3 years, however many years since Drew hasn't been that point of attack guy anymore. So they haven't faced a team that has a defense quite like this. And I love Halliburton. I've been very pro Tyrese Halliburton. I posted that clip from 2 years ago where I talked about how they could build around him, why they should build around him. I also apparently called the Pascal Siakam trade a month and a half before it happened, which I didn't even remember. But they've done everything right to this point, and like they've been amazing. They've been my favorite team to watch in these playoffs by a fucking mile. Their games are a movie every single time. The way that the style of play, the transition stuff, the way the ball moves, the way that I've called Tyrese like the most unique superstar in the NBA in terms of like he can have kind of an underwhelming scoring game and still impact the game a ton in a positive manner. I said this. I think that like if you were to like break down like the most efficient plays in basketball. So like I'm talking about like, all right, like you think about like a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander drive, right? Because like he's either going to get into the mid-range or he's going to draw a foul, and like, you know, a Jokic post up or whatever. Like, I think one of the probably the most efficient play in basketball on the whole, I don't have the numbers on this, I'm just riffing, would probably be either a Tyrese Halliburton steal or a Tyrese Halliburton defensive rebound. Because if they get that ball and they are able to get it out running, they are unbeatable, it feels like at times. But the OKC will have an improved transition defense opposed to the teams that they've had before. They can run with you.
Are they a good transition defense team?
I think I'm just going based on personnel and vibes here. What I'm trying to say,
it could be, but that because I was going to make that well, I'll let you finish what you're saying.
But my thing here is more along these lines.
Yeah.
In a series where they know when they're scouting for the Pacers and they know the importance of getting back and defending in the full court, and it's easier said than done with this team. Like, this team is not easy to defend. Once again, they are the most unique team in the NBA in terms of they just hit you with a crazy style of so many guys can create, so many guys can shoot, so many guys can pass, so many guys can score in the open floor. They have athletes all over the place. But having said that, like, I think that Halliburton is really going to struggle in a way that we haven't
Yeah.
seen him struggle in the playoffs before, just because of the fact that they have so many guys that can throw at him, because of the fact that I know that he is not someone that you can, even if you shut him down in a one-on-one situation, it doesn't fuck up their whole offense. But this is going to need to be a big series from the other guys for sure. Like, it just feels
Yeah.
like the point of attack defenders, their ability to get into his handle and their ability to wall off the paint somewhat. Not that that is Halliburton's game a ton. Like, he obviously is very perimeter
Well,
oriented, but
I mean, this is how the Thunder are built because you have Dort or Caruso as your point of attack defender, and
or
you're
Case and
swinging the
Wallace.
ball, or Case and Wallace, any of those guys, and you're swinging it to you know Shea. You're trying to find Shea's guy, but then you also have guys trying to make like attack closeouts or something that are your Aaron Nesmiths, like your fourth, fifth men on the team trying to make moves against Jalen Williams. And like that's where you get killed, and that's where the Thunder 10-0 runs come from, is if Jalen Williams gets a steal and he similarly gets to get out in transition, and that's where I think that's a Jalen Williams like big skill is creating
He
steals and
guards
and
up
being
so
a
well too.
yeah,
Like, he can
yeah,
guard like he really can guard like 2 through 4, it feels like. And in
yeah.
some situations, not like every 5 obviously, but like I wouldn't feel horrible about him switching on to Miles Turner in this series, to be completely
Yeah, oh
honest
no,
with you.
like, especially like Miles Turner is not a
Yeah.
like bruising guy. So here would be my case for the Pacers. I don't know how this ended up with the Knicks series, but I think around game 3 of the Knicks series, I looked at the playoff numbers. Pacers number 1 in not turning the ball over, which I think is where you have to start with it. If you're gonna have a chance against the Thunder, you cannot turn the ball over. It needs to start there. It needs to end there. Um, I think officiating
They've been
obviously plays
that's
a role in that
that's the
too.
high
But
watermark of Halliburton teams, is that they don't turn the ball over. And that's
yeah,
but then again, you play with this pace, you're running the risk. That's
yeah.
always the case.
Well, and and I think that's part of why this Pacers team is so impressive is because their pace is so high and they are not able to
Right.
turn the ball over.
The
Now,
Warriors
this,
always turn the ball over. They just got
yeah.
efficient shots all out of the, and it didn't matter, and their defense was great.
Now, as you pointed out, the Thunder defense is a totally different animal. They're going to be scouting for that. Like
Yeah.
you're going up against one of the best defenses in the history of the NBA. That's why everyone's fading the Pacers. Um, so speaking of which, the other factor, there's definitely going to be some nobody believes in us for the Pacers. I just Bill was talking about betting on the Thunder sweep. I'm surprised that he's not drinking his own Kool-Aid there because I think this is the biggest favorite. I mean, I guess Lakers Miami was probably a similarly pretty like
That was a huge favorite.
a
Also,
huge favorite. Like
Denver, every Miami series. I mean, Miami was the 8th seed in the finals 2 years ago.
I think in the Denver one though, like people were like drinking the playoff Jimmy Butler
Not by the
Kool-Aid.
finals, though. No, because remember they blew the 3-0 lead. I'm telling you,
Oh
Vegas
yeah,
doesn't fall for that shit. Like,
yeah,
if we're talking betting odds, now maybe consensus, people were like, this is the argument against this being a competitive series, is that the last 2 years we've gotten to this point and said, "Oh, I think this is going to be a good series," and it's not a good series at all. It's over in 5. Like,
yeah.
there's very obviously one team that is better than the other team, but the Pacers have been playing just as good. It's not quite as to the level that the Thunder have played since January, really. Like, we're on like 4 or 5 months of them being like one of like if you take out the first few months of the season, which haven't really been all that relevant in these playoffs, they've been clearly the second best team in the NBA.
How many teams have made the conference finals twice in a row in like the last like 6 years? It's Miami and Boston.
Mm-hmm. That might be it.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's something. I'm sorry. Like again, there's a lot of Miami comps. Obviously, that would be why you would like be a little scared of picking the Pacers. The Pacers are
The
good.
Pacers offense is too elite for me to
Yes.
think that they're like
Oh,
Miami
and
in that.
Minnesota, obviously. Duh.
Oh yeah,
Um,
Minnesota this year. Yeah,
yeah,
good
yeah,
call.
duh, duh. But and I think Minnesota's good. You know what I'm saying? Like we just talked about how this was supposed to be a step back year, and they in the conference
Yeah.
finals. Obviously because of like their path a little bit. Everybody makes it a little bit because of their path. But like this is a Pacers team that was very good. I think they were the best team that the Celtics played last year. I know we swept them, but like that was
No, I
every
think that
Celtics
proved to be
fan
true.
came away. Yeah, every Celtics fan came away from that series being like, "Those guys are demons. We swept them. We were very lucky to sweep them." Um, like, I don't know. Like, and I still do. I've been completely and utterly turbo owned by the Thunder, up and down. I think this entire segment that I've done about like picking the Thunder in 5 is probably going to be painted as me like reverse jinxing them. I still do in my heart of hearts, even as bad as the Thunder have owned me, I do still in my heart of hearts believe that this Thunder team is going to struggle in situations where they are down 8 and the game is kind of getting close to the end of the game. Even though this like Pacers defense isn't good, I do think it's a little bit of a different animal to be in the finals on the biggest stage. Um, I think if they can play their game and it's the Pacers who are down 10, uh yeah, it's going to be a short series. But I think if, one of these games, game 1 or 2, if it gets down to like 8, you know what I'm saying? I don't trust, you know, Lou Dort. Um, I think Jalen Williams has been awesome at times. I still don't trust Jalen Williams to hit threes in big clutch situations. I don't trust a lot of their guys to hit big clutch threes in situations. It's really just Shea Gilgeous-Alexander in their offense. So they have to. I think the key for the Thunder is going to need to be to play from ahead, because I do think that kind of compounds. I think that's when the worst version of the Thunder show up, is when they're down like near double digits and the game is kind of winding down.
I think
So
they got the monkey off their back. They came back multiple times in the Denver series. They came back in the Wolves series. They hit all their threes late in that Wolves game. The
did they
game
come back in the Wolves series?
Yeah, they were down in game 4 and they came back and they won to go up 3-1, and that kind of was
I
the end
guess
of the series.
I guess I
Yeah.
didn't watch that
They
one.
hit all that game
Was that like turnovers though?
that
Like
was the kind of game where you come out of it and you go, they figured it out to me. Like I watch
maybe.
it was J-Dub got hot from 3, Chet couldn't miss from 3. They had and that was their kind of like, it's weird to say this because they beat the Nuggets in this previous round, but that was like, we should be taken seriously, we've arrived game for me. Where like they had every chance to go. They could have went back to OKC 2-2, and it could have been. They were not phased at all in a way that I haven't seen them. Like, even at times in the Nugget series when they won those games, it did feel like they were a little bit like shaken in the moment. I'll say that much. The
Yeah.
Wolves series, it did not. It never felt like that once to me, and I felt like everyone overreacted to the Wolves shooting like 70% from 3 in the first half of game 3. And I said that on this podcast. I was like, everyone's just overreacting to one good Wolves shooting game. And then the Thunder came back in the next game and they looked them dead in the eyes and they beat them. And I once again, I think that was their moment where it was like, we all that other shit doesn't matter anymore. Having said
So
that,
let me just I have one last point. Okay.
okay.
We are getting also the unstoppable force, immovable object of Devil Magic versus the most boring outcome. Uh Worst outcome. You know what I'm saying? The most boring worst outcome is usually what happens. However, the Pacers have been unquestionably the Satan Magic team here for 3 straight
Absolutely.
rounds.
Yeah.
And like what does the Oklahoma City prayer before the game undo the devil magic? I guess is what I'm saying. Does that dispel the devil magic?
So I've been thinking about this.
Okay.
If the Pacers won this series, it would be the biggest upset in the finals since
The 2011. Oh no, was that an upset? Mavericks, yeah, probably Mavericks Pete, right?
and who
Because that
was the
was the
coach?
Rick Carlisle. Did Zach kind of like Zach made that point? I listened a little bit to Zach and who do you have? Kurt Goldsberry. And they were kind of talking about like Carlisle in terms of coach. I do think Carlisle's probably going to outcoach Dagnall. it won't matter probably because I
Well,
think the
that's
talent levels is
Carlisle's
different. But
outcoached everyone in these playoffs.
yeah,
He's proven why he's going to be a Hall of Fame coach.
right.
I think that he is a guy that kind of gotten forgotten a little bit because we talked about like,
Rondo,
well,
Rondo
also because
ruined his
like
career.
Luca always got the credit with the Mavs, where like
Right. Yep.
When you play Luca ball, Luca's going to be the one that gets the credit for it when he's always been kind of an innovative offensive mind, and we haven't really gotten to see it until he got someone like Halliburton, and they built out this roster basically perfectly around Halliburton's strengths and weaknesses. And he's been cooking with gas. The thing, even Carlisle at his age,
Yep.
more flexible than guys like Thibs and Doc. Like,
Yep.
he is willing to go to deep into his bench. He's willing to try shit out. And look, sometimes it's going to look like total dog shit, and Thomas Bryant's going to, fuck you up in the first 2 games of the series. And then Tony Bradley looks playable. He's going to have a game where he throws out Ben Shepherd or Jarris
Yeah.
Walker or whoever. And that has kind of been something that once again, it took Thibs until his back was against the wall. Carlisle is not afraid to try. Dagnall's also the same way, to be clear. Like, Dagnall also does that stuff where sometimes I'm like, you're getting a little cute. Because
Dagnall's gone bozo mode like twice at least in this offseason
he
so
has.
far
He
too.
has.
Like, so
I mean, the end of the Denver game is the one where I'm like, and by the way, I don't know, you didn't catch game 4 of the Wolves series, but the end of game 4 of the Wolves series, they did the fouling up again, and it worked out this time.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to fouling up. In general, I wish we could get rid of it. It's the only thing I hate about the NBA, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I think it makes the product way worse if you can just foul up 3 and we don't get more exciting game-winning shots and all that stuff. From a strategy standpoint, it is good and sound if there's less than 10 seconds left in the game. Where I thought Dagnall got too cute is he started doing it with like 17 seconds left in the game. And I was like, what do you do? Now you have to play the free throw game. And if you miss one free throw, the game's not over. And that's exactly what happened. Having said that, I mean, look, it would be one of the biggest upsets we've ever seen in the finals. I don't think the Pacers should be completely written off, and this isn't even disrespect to the Thunder. I've respected the Thunder the whole season. I picked them before the season, before the playoffs, in the playoffs. I've not wavered at all this whole year. But this Pacers team is just a different animal in terms of no team plays like them, and I do think that matters a little bit from matchup to matchup. And I think the Thunder will win in 5, or I'm picking the Thunder in 6. But I think it's going to be a great fight from a tactical standpoint and a basketball standpoint. I think it's going to be such an entertaining matchup, unless the Thunder just completely dispose of them. Obviously.
I'm going to go one step further because this is like a very like guys who like write the NBA or have more like niche podcasts always do this whenever like 2 teams like, whatever the national media is crying about ratings, like correctly, they overcorrect the other way and be like, this is a NBA hipster nerds wet dream of a series.
Is this going to get best new music from Pitchfork?
Are we gonna the Spain pick and rolls are gonna be crazy this time? Wow. I think this is just gonna objectively be in a very good series, even for like your girlfriend or himbo boyfriend who doesn't watch the NBA is going to be able to watch these games and be like, this is awesome. I do think that it's going to have like general, I think it's going to
should have
it's going to pass the watch test because the way the Pacers play is so interesting. I think the Thunder are less fun to watch, but when they're cooking, when they're on their 10 points runs, it's a very entertaining brand of basketball when they get into like the like fouling, like you know what I'm saying, when they get away with fouls and get out in transition. It's going to be a lot of very exciting plays. It's going to be a lot of big runs, big swings. I think is going to be happening a lot. I don't think we're going to be watching like fucking the rock fights that like Celtics Knicks was. You know what I'm saying? I think we are gonna have a very aesthetically even with the Thunder being as good a defense as they are, I do think that the Pacers are flexible enough, weird enough, and strange enough, there's still going to be some really entertaining games.
I hope the casual fans watch because it's going to be a great series, and get over the fact that LeBron or Steph isn't in the finals anymore. We're introducing new fucking people. It's a exciting matchup, fun, youngish teams.
The MVP is in this fucking thing. Come on.
Yeah. I really do think that people, once again, I know that people only care about the casual fans. I'm not talking about people that we're going to watch no matter what. But the casual fans tend to not really give a shit about other than the big names and the marquee matchups and stuff. I hope that isn't the case because I think it's going to be a great series. And I think that the NBA was better for the parody that happened this year. I've been saying that this is good for the league, and anyone who complains, I mean, the biggest thing that drives me insane is when the boomers are like, I like dynasties. And I'm like, kill yourself. Why do you like dynasties?
No, that sucks.
That's dog shit to watch.
I'm sorry. 2016, broke our thing because 2016 is probably the best outcome that that we've ever had from a casual perspective besides the 2011 finals. 2016 is probably
created a ton of memes.
Well, it created a ton of memes.
That series also sucked until Game 7 is the thing. There were 4 blowouts in that series.
So that's what I was just going to say. All of the Warriors, Cavs, 4-peat fucking sucked. All of those finals were ass except for 2016. And it was, unless you just pointed out, it was really Game 7. You know what I'm saying?
It was really just Game 7.
Yeah. So my thing here's my advice for everyone. Okay. We all have to remember, because you're not going to have your guys. How did LeBron build up his legacy to where he became the LeBron that we knew? Okay, it started with slandering him and calling him a giant pussy for 2011. We can start that this offseason. We're whoever loses this finals is a fraud, choker, loser. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
And that's where it starts. Because this is what
we're going to get that anyway. We've seen it all throughout the playoffs, no matter who loses.
This is what the podcasting class that tuts about. I just wish that we could just appreciate these guys and like these guys for who they are. No, that's not how this works. You start by being horrible assholes to them, tearing them down, burying them in the dirt. Then when they come back and disprove it, then that is the knighting. That is the crown that gets put on your head. Steph never really had to do that. I think Steph's the only guy who's kind of beat that of anyone recently.
Well, because Steph was a non-factor for most of the beginning of his career because of the injuries.
Yeah.
And also because he had, if you want to make the comp, honestly, Halliburton is probably the closest thing to that because Halliburton came into the league a little bit older, just like Steph did.
Yeah.
He was 20 as opposed to 18 or 19.
Yeah.
He also was on the Kings for his first 2 years.
Yeah.
Year and a half, 2 years.
Yep.
And then he started to come around in his mid-20s, 24, 25, which is around the time that Steph started to pop. And then Steph became Steph when he was 25, 26. Yep. So if there is a parallel there,
Sorry, I'm laughing at KJ. Being on the Kings is like being injured.
It's like being in what?
Being injured. Being on the Kings is like being injured.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Your soul and your spirit. By the way, I respect. There's a Zirola in our Discord who is a Kings fan. You are the strongest soldier I've ever met. And seriously, any Kings fan who still likes and follows basketball, Jack from TikTok, who's a huge Kings fan, you guys are the bravest people. You're braver than the troops.
Yeah.
You're braver than literally anyone I've ever met, because I would literally just give up on basketball. Because I had a miniature version of what they're going through right now when we let Jimmy Butler walk and then he signed with the Heat and they made 2 finals and they made it to the conference finals. And I had to hear about all these lies that he was just making up and how he rewrote the whole story about what happened. If we traded a player in his second season and then he went on to become the best player on a team that made the finals and he was our guy, because I didn't have an attachment to Jimmy Butler. He only played with us for 3/4 of a season in the playoffs. I didn't really have that much of an attachment to him. If we did this after we traded Tyrese Maxey in his second season, or Joel Embiid in his second season, and then he went on to do something that like Tyrese Halliburton has, I would be beside myself. I literally don't know if I would be able to follow the team anymore.
And the fact that it's an and on top of everything else. You know what I'm saying? Like the Kings, like in terms of like horrific basketball moments, like top 10, the Kings have like 6 of them. Like 6 of like the most traumatic things that can happen to like a fan base.
0-2, the Lakers Kings game 6.
Yeah.
The passing on Luka for Marvin Bagley.
Yep.
The thing that didn't really end up biting them in the ass, but probably should have bite them in the ass, was the pick swap that the Sixers got in the one salary dump, because I don't know if you remember this from 2017. Yep. The reason why the Sixers were picking at 3 in that draft was the Sixers and the Kings swapped their picks, but the Kings nailed their pick and they got Fox, and we moved up to 1 and we drafted Fultz and he was a bust. Yeah. But in theory, that should have worked out poorly for the Kings. It didn't end up working out poorly for the Kings.
Yep.
They've been on the opposite side of so many bad things. And it, once again, does just come down to, other than the 0-2 shit, which was just blatant rigging from David Stern and the league.
Yeah.
And Tim Donaghy. Yeah.
Stauskas?
I mean,
even when they get a good, we've made this point before, but even when they got like a good, they went for the Maloofs, who were like a malignant owner, like the like stereotypically bad owner. I went from that to getting the well-intentioned but meddling fuck-up owner in like Vivek, like
toxic positivity owner.
Yeah, just ruin it. You know, very similar. Honestly, if we made this comp before, that like Vivek is probably the closest comp we have to Ishbia. You know what I'm saying?
Like, a little bit, yeah. It's the same mold, I would say.
Yeah, like those type of owners, you know, where it's not like the Dolan thing, where like Dolan's or Reinsdorf or these other like, you know,
right? They're trying to do what they think is the right thing.
Yes, but they're just stupid.
But you should just not be allowed to control things.
Yeah,
like they should take the team away from you, and you should hire a basketball person. Dolan did this forever, and then he was like, "Hey, let's let Leon Rose run the show." And what happened? It worked out great. Like, if you don't meddle in the team's day-to-day and transactional stuff, and you hire the right people, you're going to be happier with the results.
It's a cheaper, it's depressing comp. It is. I mean, I don't know. It's really tough for Kings fans. I mean, I think like Mavericks fans, like even the like the Luka trade is such like a devastating thing. I think they are about to get Cooper Flag.
That's like they already
did get Anthony, and they did get Anthony. Yeah. I know it's still a bad trade. They did get Anthony Davis. Kings fans got Marvin Bagley.
Yeah, like there's no comparable situation. And like, Sabonis, who they probably won't even be able to trade now, is the other thing. Is that because and once again, the Oppenheimer moment for the Kings, when we look back at this in 20 years, and we've talked about this before, is the Davion Mitchell pick. Because they made the Davion Mitchell pick thinking that they were going to have to choose between Halliburton and Fox, instead of saying, can we try to make this work with both Halliburton and Fox?
Yeah.
And just draft Şengün, who is literally just better Sabonis.
God damn,
or at least same level of player, whatever. And they could have drafted him, and they were tied to him, and everyone thought they were going to draft him. They took Mitchell. Then they ended up trading Halliburton later in that season. And then Mitchell's not on their team, Fox isn't on their team, Halliburton isn't on their team, and they're stuck with Sabonis.
Man, dude.
Just a series of unforced errors that is like unlike anything we've ever seen. And I genuinely feel bad because, like, once again, this is a team that, like, we all 2 years ago, we were also happy for them. Like, we were like, oh, they finally are back in the playoffs. And like, yeah, maybe it's not the most sustainable thing, but at least they have this. They can build off this. And then they fucked it up.
Like, at least the Pistons won the title in 2004, man. Like,
okay, I mean, there's no one that you can compare to them except for the Hornets, who don't have fans.
Yeah.
The Hornets just don't have fans.
And they're also like kind of technically like a new franchise. It's like sort
Yeah, the
well,
Bobcats are like a different thing, basically.
yeah, yeah.
Which is what this version of the Hornets is. Like their old Hornets are the Pelicans now. Like that's
Yeah, I was gonna say the Pelicans give the Hornets their history back.
they did. Yeah, they
Okay.
have the city, but it doesn't matter. It's a different franchise. Like
It is, yeah.
Tate Frazier talked about this on I think it was Kevin O'Connor's podcast, where he was like, everyone keeps calling them the Hornets, and I just call them the Bobcats because they're
Yeah.
just like a bastardized version of the team I grew up loving, basically in like the '90s
Yeah.
and the early 2000s. And then they traded, or then they blew it all up, and they haven't won a. I mean, they haven't won a playoff series since they become the Bobcats.
Yeah, I don't blame Hornets fans for not welcoming that team with open arms because how would you feel if like one day like somebody showed up, you're like 22 years old, they showed up wearing the skin mask of a beloved family member you remembered from you were 5, and all they do is hire sex offenders to like join their team. Like it's rough. It's rough for
Is
Hornets
there a
fans to work.
parallel there, or you were just making a joke?
What do you mean?
Oh,
The
I thought there
Hornets?
was like usually when you do one of those things, there's like
Okay.
an exact comp for that where you're like,
Oh, no, 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 no.
okay,
I was just saying like it's I was just saying how distasteful the Hornets
sure.
are also probably the most distasteful franchise as well. Just in terms of like what they like guys that they bring in, the things that they're willing to ignore,
Yeah.
those type of things. Yeah, Cleveland Browns, that's a great, yeah.
It's the only
It
other,
literally is, yeah,
the exact
exactly
same
the
thing.
Cleveland. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly, where the Ravens like have it's like what if the Pelicans were also like one of like the perennial best teams in the
Right.
NBA?
And they were in your
On top of
division.
that, yes, like that would be fucking tough.
Brutal.
Like,
But,
man,
but yeah, so, uh, the Kings fans, you are our strongest soldiers. I feel
yeah,
very bad. I hope that the fortunes turn around. I mean, I'm assuming they're just going to go into a rebuild, but
sure,
we'll see. They seem to fight that off every time. They at least they gave away their picks so that they have all their picks controlled for moving forward, and they have.
yep.
But anyway,
Ooh.
yeah. Do we want to do before? There, like I said, the slop that we talked about earlier, like Kevin Durant, like I think he probably, if they do trade him, which I was skeptical they were going to, I think it's probably just going to end up being the Rockets or the Timberwolves. They figure something out there. I'm still like I can't even really wrap my brain around like what his trade value is, as you talked about. I don't know if you saw the Bobby Marks thing. I don't know if I want to trust it because it's Bobby Marks,
Okay.
but he said that the Heat are expected to give Tyler Hero a 3-year, $150 million extension.
I mean, honestly, makes sense. But Pat Riley is the most overrated GM in the NBA, so like that makes sense. Like, what if we made our team even more expensive and more mid?
So people have said that they want to have a pathway to cap space, not this upcoming season, but the next offseason. And Hero's deal would still be 30 million for that. But like I've
Okay.
looked at their books and like unless they can dump Wiggins or they trade Bam, there's no way that they can do that. Like if they do get cap space, it's like $30 million, and like what does $30 million of cap space get you in 2025 or 2027 or 6 at that point? Like I just
Yeah.
don't what's the strategy there? Like there are no big name free agents. You're not creating enough cap space to get like a max level guy. What's the idea behind that?
Yeah. 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 Do you? Yeah. Like Nate says, do you want like Julius Randle? Is that what's like saving your franchise? Like, come.
That's the best kind of player you could get.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, the thing is, like, the Heat are probably going to end up like fucking up their long. Well, they're already pretty fucked, but like the fact that the East is so weak, they're probably going to continue to make the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? Like, which will kind of paper over how dire it is for them.
The one thing is that they at least are good at drafting in like the mid first round is the one thing, but
Sure.
I don't they haven't really drafted anyone that matters since Hero.
Yeah,
I like
well,
Khalil Ware.
TBD. Yeah, I was gonna say TBD on Ware is
Yeah,
probably.
I mean, I had
yeah.
Ware top 10, and I think he's good. But I'm also
Yeah.
like, how much does he matter when you're trying to contend for a championship and your best players are Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo?
I mean, they should trade Bam. You know what I'm saying? I'm wondering if like the franchises hate each other too much, but I'm wondering if there's some sort of Bam Celtics framework at some point, like just by like virtue if they want to get to cap space, you know.
I mean, like, what's even the point? Like, I don't
Yeah.
know. It's just Jesus
The
Christ.
Celtics fans would talk themselves into it. Like I know a lot of Celtics fans who are still haunted by like Bam Adebayo and are like we should go get Bam, and I'm like I'm good,
I
but
mean, I
I
just
could
think that
see.
I think during the second apron environment shit, like, I don't think you can pay Bam Adebayo $50 million a year and
I
be a
agree.
contender.
I agree.
I
I
just and
completely
especially
agree.
when you're gonna supermax Jason Tatum coming off an Achilles.
Yep.
Like, it makes no sense to me
On
that
top of
people have not adjusted their brains to, like, you can't give a supermax to, like, the 35th best player in the NBA and still be good.
yeah.
That's why, like, even with the Sixers, like, Sixers fans get mad at me all the time where I'm like, guys, you can't survive Joel Embiid not playing on a supermax. Like, there's no pathway to you being like a contender or even like a team that wins a playoff series if he's cooked. Like, it's going to be more important to nail these. The Paul George thing is also going to be like, if he can't stay healthy or get back to even like a sub all star ish level player, you cannot have those big contracts on your books. You basically have to nail every other move on your team to even be
I,
somewhat
I
competent.
I don't think people have realized because I've seen a lot of people talking about how like payroll is going to break up the Thunder, and like Thunder fans are like pushing back against that and they're right for the wrong reasons. Thunder fans are like, no, we're going to pay for. No, you're not. But it's not going to meaningfully impact the Thunder because like Jalen Williams and Chet are going to be making $40 million each, and when Bam is making 60, like that's a huge difference. Having like $20 million in wiggle room. That's the difference between having like Derek White on your team. You know what I'm saying? Like you could pay if Tyler Hero gets a $50 million extension. One team is going to have and like if let's say that the Thunder traded for Derek White, for example. Okay, they would have Chet, Jalen Williams, and Derek White for the same amount of money that the Heat would have Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero, and that's the difference between these like big um like extensions and why that 35% these super maxes and stuff like that makes such a big fucking difference, and why it's so advantageous to have guys who are on like coming off of rookie scale deals on those
Right. I
maxes.
was gonna say the second max is like nothing compared to the third max. Like,
Yeah.
when you get that third contract, fourth contract, that's where it starts to be like you got to be basically a top 10 to 12 player in the NBA to justify those deals now. Like, teams are gonna
Yep.
just realize that over time, basically, if they haven't already. But the a few things. Um, the speaking of, I had this. Maybe you're probably gonna say no. Should the Magic trade for Derek White? I think they
I
kind of
mean,
should. I know we've talked about, like, you missed the episode last week, but we talked about on the Patreon episode,
oh,
we
I
talked
heard.
the Suggs for Garland potential trade.
Yeah, and I heard what you said.
What did I
I
say?
heard what you said. You said, because you were talking about Jalen Suggs
Oh
and what his
yeah, yeah,
shooting
yeah.
percentages were, and you said that it was the difference between Marcus Smart and Derek White. And I want you to know that I heard that.
Okay.
I want you to know that I charged the cockpit on the flight I was on, demanded that they land the plane, turn it around, and bring me back.
I
They
knew I
said
could get away
no.
with saying it on
The
that
air
episode.
marshal, cuffed me to the chair. Really delayed my trip. Anyway, I wanted everyone to know that I heard that. And that was very rude. Um, you're a coward for doing that when I wasn't here to derail the episode for 15 minutes, pushing back on that.
The point was
Yes,
Jalen Suggs
yes,
and his defensive ability is always going to bring value. The
yes,
offense is always going to be reliant on him making his catch and shoot threes.
yeah,
Derek White is a better shooter because he can shoot off of the dribble and also off catch and shoots, and he's a little bit more versatile. The the Magic have been looking for that guard to fill in. But as I've said before, you keep saying, oh, well, we should take them seriously as a playoff team. And my whole thing has been like, if they do add one of those guards that we've discussed attached to them, there's always going to be the defensive question mark. Where the reason why the Magic are such a good playoff team was because, or not, I shouldn't say such a good playoff team, why they're such a competitive playoff team, and they might play a little bit above their heads, is because their defense really slows down teams because they're able to switch, because they're able to muck shit up. And would they be able to do that if they acquired a Kobe White and Anthony Simons, whatever? Derek White wouldn't like take that off the table for you, is what I'm trying to say, because he's still a good defender. And he would also complement Franz and Paulo very well on offense. We've already seen him do it with wings.
So here's what I would say about that. I mean, I think that's definitely probably the single player that's like not like an all NBA guy that would be the best for them to acquire.
Yeah,
like 100%. I would never do that in 100 years as the Celtics, because why am I gonna like?
I get it.
I think that would make well, first of all, just what it would do to the Celtics, but second of all, why am I building a fucking younger super team in the conference that we're gonna have to play?
Like, I get it. This would be a bet. This would be a bet against two things. This would be a bet against the Derek White being that good outside of the Celtics context, which I still think he'd be a very good player, but he's entering his 30s now. It's not guaranteed that he's going to be as effective as he is on this last 2 years. I mean, when you first got Derek White, I know he's become a much better shooter since then, but he drove you insane at times. Like, it's not like he's always been this perfect player like he has been role player the last 2 or 3 years.
I'm still mad that he shot fucking 49 true shooting in the 2022 playoffs. I'm still so mad about that, to be totally honest. But anyway.
I know Derek's also much better now than he was during that series, which is another point like against trading him.
But by the way, that wasn't just the series. That was the entire
playoff. I know.
Yeah. Anyway.
But the thing that I'm trying to get at here is it would be a bet against that. And then also, like, how much would you get back for him? Because, like, if you're getting both the picks in this draft, which the late 20s pick is kind of worthless now. Like, you guys already have a late first, and we just saw, like,
everyone went back to school.
And we've heard all the teams that are picking in the 20s and 30s are like, what the fuck? Like, they're like, any team that was relying on like, once again, the Suns I think that's going to go down as the worst trade in the history of the NBA. I really do. I'm planting my flag in that right now.
Yeah.
To trade away your 2031 unprotected first, get 3 bad first back, and then have it. They have to hit on that pick because they don't have players. That has potential to be like the first pick in the draft 6 years from now. And they traded it for the 29th pick in this draft, a salary dump, and they have one other bad one a few years out right now. And now all these guys are going back to school. So that's where I fall short with the Magic thing, because, like, I don't think they're getting to a point where they're giving up like 4 firsts in salary, or maybe like Anthony Black and 3 firsts and salary. Like, I think that they would just have a hard stop, and they would be like, let's go get someone else instead.
Yep.
But it's at least I would say worth discussing, because I think he would be the perfect fit for them. The other draft confession I have to make.
By the way, I would do 3 firsts and Anthony Black for Derek White.
I was gonna say, I knew you're an Anthony Black guy, so you would be like, all right, well,
sorry, I mean for the Magic. Like, I'm putting myself in the Magic shoes. Like, I would do that as the Magic, because I do think that Derek White is that perfect of a fit for them. Yeah, and I do think they would immediately become like a true Eastern Conference, especially in this season.
Next year, they could probably win the conference if they did that. Considering how everything has broken. Right. But and I think they are going to speed things up from everything we've heard. So that there's at least the fact that they're probably going to trade those picks. Now, I don't know what level of player that gets them, just because I'm like, unless you really like someone at 16 where they're picking. Yeah. Also, they do have, if you wanted to bet against the Suns, they have the Sun swap for next year.
I would love.
That's what I'm saying.
Love.
I think we can talk you into this, is what I'm trying to say. But anyway.
I don't. Yeah, I mean, at that point, though, if you trade Derek White, then you do have to kind of
See,
like
I want to
you
bet
have to
against
do
the
like a
Suns.
hard
I want to bet
reset.
against the Suns with the Rockets picks, like where they have
Yeah.
Suns picks like 2 years out. Where I'm
Shoot.
like, because right now they could make a KD trade to make themselves like 35 win bad or
Yep.
35 win good, quote unquote, still bad, but like good
Yeah.
enough that like you're only getting like the 11th pick in the draft. Whereas
Yep.
if they were to like fully like 3 years from now, I think you're going to be literally just like cashing in on top picks if you have Suns picks.
Yep.
And the Jazz and the Rockets and those teams will be able to do it. But the draft confession I have to make is that, are you sitting down?
Okay. I am.
I fear that the woke mob might have got to me a little bit.
Oh no.
I'm caving, and I don't know if it's Cope
Don't
because of,
say it.
I don't know if it's Cope because the Sixers might end up picking him. But
Oh. Oh, I thought you were gonna do Igor, and I was about to drive down to Philly and like
no.
and oh, Ace is fine. I think that's okay.
I moved up. I have a tier right now
Okay.
that I have Ace in, along with
Okay.
a few other guys that I really like, is what I'm trying to say. I moved him up to 6 on my board. I'm still, that tier from like 3 to 8 is pretty fluid for me.
Yep.
I don't think there's like anyone that's like very clearly a much better prospect than anyone else in there. I've been lower on Ace this whole cycle. I've had him like 9, 10. I moved him up to 7 or 8 last time we talked, I think. I have him up at 6. And by the way, I don't know if you saw this. I feel like I'm a great passer, but when it's time to get a bucket, I'm going to get a bucket quote that came out from him. I find the quotes, they're starting to become endearing to me a little bit, where I actually am like, fuck the coaches and the scouts and the woke media for holding back a hooper like this. Like, it might be a personal thing where I'm like, let this boy cook and let him
Yeah.
shine.
Yeah,
But
I was just gonna say, you look at Anthony Edwards, back to back Western Conference Finals. I'm just saying.
I went back and I watched, because some people, we were talking about this when I went on Rights to Ricky Sanchez last week. We
Yeah. You
talked
did a good
about.
job, by the way, because I
Oh,
watched
thank
that
you.
clip.
I
Yes,
appreciate
yeah,
that.
yes,
I went on and we talked about when you're scouting athletes in college, which is something that I've admittedly been kind of bad at. Like, I would say,
yep,
like, I don't really know what translates athletically as much all the time. But when you see a guy that is like that guy, you know. And like Mike brought up the fact that like Anthony Edwards as a shot creator and someone who lived at the rim really stood out in college, even though the numbers were not that great. And it was obvious that he was going to translate athletically to the NBA.
yep,
And the thing with Ace is like, I don't think that is the case. I think that the athleticism isn't the thing, but I do think that the shot making is good enough. Like, I keep thinking back to like, is he going to fit perfectly in a role for a team like the Sixers or a team like the Jazz or a team like whoever takes him, and they're going to be happy with him in his first year? No, I think he's probably going to suck as a rookie. Like, I've kind of just landed on like, he's probably going to be kind of bad for his first year or two. And this
yep,
is why I said I'd rather have him on my second contract, Andrew Wiggins style, as opposed to the first contract with him. Having said that, there are so few guys in this class that have like very clear elite skills that like we always talk about, like, you have to bet on like one of these things becoming outlier good in order for them to reach star levels. And while I still don't trust the handle and the decision making and the driving and the getting to the rim and all that stuff for Ace to reach like the peaks that his biggest fans think, I think that the floor has to be, I think it's relatively high with him. Because I just feel like if you're a legit 6'7" without shoes, probably 6'8", almost 6'9" with shoes, with a 7-foot wingspan, I think his shooting is absolutely going to translate. Like, I've been big on that like this whole time. Like, he takes tough shots, he makes tough shots. When he gets easier looks in the NBA, like off of catch and shoots and stuff, he's going to be able to knock down those shots. Like, I just know he will. And the thing is that like the wing scarcity, we've talked about that, and the fact that he is someone who is going to have games where he just can't miss, and he'll have stretches where he can just fill it up like he did at random times during this season as the season went on. That I don't think that I'm still, once again, I'm still shorting the ceiling a little bit, what people think that he could be. But I think that the shot making and the touch and the size just gives him such a wide margin for error that I can't have him outside of like the top 6 or 7 in this draft, because the more I watch guys, the more I'm just like, there are so many flaws I could pick apart, even with the guys I like VJ and Khan and like all those guys that I'm like, I can't put them at like some people have like Ace at like 15. And I'm like, I don't know how you could do that in a draft like this.
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, I heard what Dredd has him at like 19 or something on his board, which is I respect it. Um, Here's the thing. I similarly have another confession. I've always been the you take the guy with the high floor thing.
Mm-hmm.
I have a new number 2 on my board.
Wow.
It's not VJ.
Is it Trey?
I found out that Trey is a Jimmy Butler style psychopath, and I'm all in. That swung me completely from 4 to 2, finding out that he's like a guy who like alarms his teammates. like I look like the finding out that his special interest is shooting is like has completely changed how I see Trey. Like I don't care that he's bad at defense. I'm now convinced he's going to be the second best player in the draft.
So I've been big on Trey for I think that
we've like traded, which is very funny.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I still like Trey. I still have Trey like 4 on my board, I think.
Yeah.
I have right now. I don't have my list. It's down here, but I think my top 7. Let's just run through 7.
Yep.
Is Flag, Harper. I'm putting Khan 3. I don't care. I think Khan is amazing, and I really think that people are underrating it because I talked about the aesthetic bias. He's goofy. He has a weird name. He looks slow. He's just a really good basketball player, and I think that people are underrating the ceiling. Trey, I have
to have Khan low so we don't get called Yakub no ball again. So
fair.
Yeah.
I have Trey 4. Yeah. I have VJ 5. I have Ace 6, and I have Malwatch 7. So that's where I am right now. I think that it will change between now and the draft. We have 3 weeks. But the thing that I once again, I'm still not like, the thing that I struggle with Trey is like, all of these guys, we have to bet on them being like super elite at 1 or 2 things for them to, and be like the best in the league at them, basically.
Yeah.
In order for them to reach like these higher end outcomes. Ace, with both Ace and Trey, probably a little bit, you feel a little bit more confident because he not only did the Ace stuff where he also made tough shots in the mid-range, even though Ace was a better mid-range shooter in college, but Trey extended it to 3 way more often. And that's the thing that I think that you can, if you're banking on real star upside with him, it's that like he's going to be a top 5 shooter all around. Like he's going to be a top 5 shooter, like from 3, from the mid-range, creating for himself, off the ball, movement. He's like one of those incredibly flexible shooters is what I'm trying to get at here. And he kind of has to be, at least until he puts on weight, because he's not like a demon like driver and like someone. The thing that I have said with Khan, and I know everyone will say, oh, the context. I get it. The thing that I've said with Khan this whole cycle is like, Ace and Trey are better testing athletes. Like if you do run and jump stuff with them, they're going to kick Khan's ass. Like at the combine, they destroyed it. They were awesome. Despite this, Khan was still the best driver and finisher of that trio. And like, that has to matter a little bit to me. Like we have literal proof that he can do it in real games that matter. And with Ace and Trey, I think the thing that will unlock both of their ceilings is what level of driver and finisher they can reach. Because Ace is actually a pretty good finisher when he can get to the basket. He just never gets to the basket. Trey struggles with both. Trey struggles to get to the basket, and he struggles around the basket finishing. And that is something that I think if he figures that out, which is something that generally you usually have more signs of it at lower levels. If he can figure that out, I mean, sky's the absolute limit for him.
Yeah.
Like he's going to be a 3-level scorer who also I think has some passing and playmaking juice. And even if he's your worst defender, you build around that skill set.
I'm willing a guy who's a Jimmy Butler level psychopath who already has one elite skill.
Yeah.
I'm willing to bet on that guy, especially if something like handle can like really help. You know what I'm saying? And I do think handle and like
His
weight
handle
room
is
and
so
some of
far ahead of Aces.
yeah,
Is the other thing is like if we're doing like if we're rating like shooting versatility, he's number one. If we're rating like of these guys, other than I think Fears has a better handle, Harper has a better handle. Trey's not like super far behind them, I would say. Like I think in time he will get to be like a pretty good ball handler. And you combine that with the fact that he is going to be a demon off the thing with Ace that I would love to see, and maybe it was because he had bad teammates. So but like Trey also didn't have a great situation, to be honest.
Yep.
But the thing that I love to see with Trey, and I can't remember who said this, I wish I could give them credit, but like Trey is setting like ghost screens and like is like running actions off the ball and is like buying into something that like he will be able to do in the NBA day one. And Mike Levin brought this up when I went on Race to Ricky Sanchez, where he was like, Trey could be, even if Trey, like, for example, Ace might suck because he wants to be a star. Trey, if he buys in, could be Isaiah Joe day one in the NBA.
No, wasn't it Chuck? Didn't Chuck say that he
Might have been Chuck.
Like it might have been Chuck that said that like because doesn't Chuck live in Texas and like goes to games? Like
yeah, that was it.
I think
it was Chuck.
And Chuck said that every time he saw Trey, he got better at like something else. Like he like added something every time. Didn't see him. Maybe I'm putting words in Chuck's mouth.
No, you're right. You're right.
No,
he saw him like 4 or 5 times throughout the season, and he said every time he watched him, because he lives in Austin, he said every time I watched him, he got noticeably better in person.
I bet on that guy. I bet the thing. I'm moving Harper down to 4. I'm finally putting my money where my mouth is. I'm gonna take the courage. VJ still at 3.
So is your second tier is Trey, VJ, and Harper, or
yeah, Harper, and I think I have
Malawatch?
one more. I think I might move Malawatch out of that tier. I think Malawatch and Khan are kind of in my next tier down. So
Khan and Malawatch.
I had to watch him ahead of Malawatch though. I have trouble with the ceiling stuff with Khan. I love Khan, but like I don't think he has the ceiling those other guys like kind of have.
The things that people have pointed out to me for shortcomings for Khan: shooting off the dribble, which he didn't really do in college, and he said he wasn't super comfortable doing it at the college level. Not a good sign if he wants to become an elite NBA shooter.
Right.
Did it at lower levels, led EYBL in scoring. I talked about that. Led the ACC tournament in scoring as well as a freshman without Cooper Flag. The other thing is that he had way more block jumpers this year than Trey. So there might be a little bit of a learning curve with Khan where like he's adjusting to, honestly, Jared McCain figured this out so fast in the NBA that it might have broken my brain a little bit with these prospects where like McCain was getting his shit sent in summer league, sent in preseason, and then like 5 games into the NBA was just like, oh, I will not get blocked anymore. And that is something that will probably be a little bit more of a learning curve for Khan. Trey doesn't get his shit blocked in the same way. Ace doesn't even get his shit blocked in the same way because Ace is super long and has a high release board. And his shot form is like Trey, Khan, and Ace have 3 of the best shot forms I've seen coming into the NBA. Even VJ. I actually think VJ, as the season went on, by the end of the season, if you watch him like his shot form, like all of their shot forms are just really NBA ready. And I think they'll be able to shoot to a certain extent like their first year in the NBA. But the thing with Khan that I think unlocks different levels with him is we talked about like, can he become a grifter? Because I think that in order to balance out NBA level athleticism, he needs to get craftier and he needs to figure out how to like draw contact. And J. Kyle Mann did a podcast with the guy from P3, which does the athletic testing. And did you listen to that?
No, because I think P3 is a pseudoscience, but I understand. Like,
okay, look, it doesn't. What he was saying is true, which is that the most underrated thing, and this is what scouts will tell you, this is what draft people will tell you. The most underrated thing with a prospect when you're trying to project NBA, the run and jump stuff is almost always overrated, basically. Like the stuff that they do at the combines.
Yeah.
I think he said that there's been, in the last decade, there's been 2 players at the combine that had a vert over 40 that ended up making an all-star team. Like, it's not something that really matters when you're trying to project long-term like stardom as much as some other skills. And the things that he talked about with athleticism, and the thing that always gets the most underrated, and we literally just saw this with Jared McCain, is strength, where he was like, if you are someone who's going to drive the ball in the NBA, if you're someone who is going to have the ball in the NBA, being fluid is a huge advantage. And then on top of that, being someone who is strong and can leverage their athleticism. And the few guys in this class that have shown that at the college level, the guys that we talked about, like Trey and Ace, are going to have to put on a ton of weight. They're going to need to, that's going to take them some time in the NBA. The guys who won't have that problem are like Colin Murray Boyles, probably Derek Queen too, like outside of the top guys. And those are the guys that I'm interested to see what levels they can reach, because they have a functional amount of strength. And Khan kind of got better at it as the year went on. Like, he learned how not to get his shot blocked. He learned how to adjust to college level athletes. It's going to be more of a learning curve in the NBA with NBA level athletes when he's finishing inside with like 2 feet in the paint and stuff. But the thing is, like, I really do think there's a world where he can if he figures that stuff out, like, he's just a insanely well-rounded offensive player who also happens to be an elite shooter with, I think, elite passing potential too.
Sure. Yeah. And as JD and Bangerman said, if you believe that, then Casper's got to get a second look on your board.
I don't dislike Casper. I think that I think Casper, I have him like 11 or 12 on my board right now.
Yeah,
I think
I've got him in that range too.
Yeah, no, I think he's going to be like a good bench guard. Like, I think he will be like a very good, like, guy who comes in off your bench, leads second units. He created for himself a ton. He ran good pick and roll. He, you would want, for, if you're projecting star level outcomes for him, you would want the shooting to be more like it was at the beginning of the season as opposed to the end of the season. But sometimes that's small sample shit. The thing with him, and I think you've pointed out, a few people have pointed out, a lot of his shot making is tough shot making.
Yep.
Will that translate? Will he struggle with that in the NBA? He's another guy that has a decent margin for error, I would say.
Yeah,
because he's a big guard who can handle the ball and run pick and roll. And like,
I don't think he's gonna like fail. You know what I'm saying? I think low ceiling is more the issue for him. Like, sure. I think he could definitely be like a normal guy. So
yeah, and also probably the most underrated star quality. And one of the reasons why, if you're skeptical on the star level outcomes for Trey and Ace, they don't get to the line. And that's something that like, if you're, and even Khan, like, was only like a low, like, he was like 30, like just above 30% free throw rate.
Yep.
Kasparis can get to the line.
Yep.
Fears can get to the line. Derek Queen lives at the line. Colin Murray Boyles lives at the line. Those are guys that, if you're making star bets, you probably want to bet on something. The thing that horrified people in the Discord, and you'll remember this because you were in the weeds, I'm sure. But the thing that horrified people about Colin Murray Boyles, who I've warmed up to a little bit, I have him like 8 or 9 on my board right now. I'm somewhere in between, like, the people that think he's like the 3rd best player in this draft, and you who think he's like late first, early second.
I not now. Now he's
now there's too many people have dropped out.
Yeah, there's too many. But yeah. Now he's like, I'd say he's like late teens for me somewhere. Like so, yeah.
But the reason why I'm a little bit stuck in between the two is because I think that college bigs I know he played like a center in college, basically.
Yeah.
They can get overrated by these numbers, analytics. When a team runs your offense through you, it is just obvious that you're going to be someone who has physical advantages over players that it might not translate necessarily to the NBA. He's also not like I'm betting more on the defense with him, and then him being like a pretty good offensive player. And then if he can ever shoot like an actually good offensive player, which I don't think he's going to be able to, but Queen is more like he has to be like the best offensive player on a team. It feels like, for him to like reach the outcomes people think he could reach, but he is like ambidextrous. He can finish with both hands, lives at the line, great in the paint. I'm just skeptical that there's any team out there that's willing to make that bet on him. But the thing going back to what I was saying before was that someone dug up Grant Williams' college stats and talked about the fact that Grant was someone who was used in a similar style to Colin Murray Boyles, didn't shoot a ton, was like more of like a post-heavy guy at Tennessee, offensive center-ish, but obviously Colin Murray Boyles, I think his defense is way ahead of where Grant's was in college. But Grant was someone who had to learn how to shoot to become an NBA player.
Can I say something else about Grant though?
He
Part
was
of the reason I was really high on Grant that series because of the P3. He at the time, I don't know if this is still true, had the highest strength testing ever P3 ever did. So
he's super strong. I mean, no one. That's the
yeah,
thing. Is like, and someone said like, well, I don't trust P3 because they said that Cam Whitmore was the second best athlete they ever tested
Yep.
behind Anthony Edwards, and I'm like, because Zach Lowe said that on his podcast, and I was like, I don't disagree that Cam Whitmore is an insane athlete. I just don't
Yeah.
know if he's a team basketball player. I think he's a
Right.
crazy athlete. Like, I don't sell that short at all.
Right.
It's more about the fact that like he needs to learn how to play more within a team context because he doesn't really have any elite skills other than being like an elite athlete who can cut and shoot sometimes. But I just thought it was an interesting observation that Grant Williams was someone who dominated and then, you know, was just like a fine NBA player and also became a good shooter.
Yeah. I know I kind of changed the book on what he was like in college. A lot of guys do that where like he was like a hub, you know what I'm saying? Like he was like a dominant, he was like a facilitating, like he was an offensive engine in college, like for that Tennessee team, like which was really good. So
Okay, so Samson folks said the Raptors like Fears and Yakachonis.
kind of makes sense. I mean, that's what they need. Like
I think that
I don't think
those would be good.
Fears is a pretty, I think that's like a pretty good match for both sides for Fears.
I think they should still be taking star bets. I know that their fan base has been on Shutter Island the last few days thinking they're getting Giannis. That's not happening, guys. Like
also,
you don't have enough to get Giannis. What are you talking about?
But here's the thing: where are the Raptors picking? 6th, 7th,
9?
Yeah, no, God, nobody with star equity is going to be left at that point. Like, if
well,
Ace
one
is
of
still
these
there,
two guys, if you think that these two guys have, and Derek Queen,
yeah,
once again, I'm lower on Derek Queen, but if you think he has star equity, he's absolutely going to be on the board there.
yeah, I think, yeah, well, Derek Queen, it wouldn't be. I think Fears. I think like it's probably a little high for Fears, but I think that is something like situation. I would be really good for Fears to go there. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I agree. I think that
yeah.
I think that it's hard for me with that team to be like they need another guy who needs the ball, but also like they should be taking star swings at the same time. That's the hard part about the Raptors where like they have like 5 or 6 guys who like seemingly need the ball to function.
Yeah.
But also they shouldn't be in a position where they're afraid to take a swing on a player that they think might have superstar upside because of that. Like they should absolutely just be drafting whoever is who they view as having the most upside at that spot, because we've talked about it before with them. Their core isn't really locked in. Like,
yeah,
I think the only 2 players that will be on this roster for sure in a year are Scotty Barnes and Brandon Ingram.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I do have to go so my sister can go to bed.
Right,
but we got 2 hours and 25 minutes. That's plenty for
Wait, did we?
Yeah. Yeah, we started at 7:30.
I'm sorry. I thought we were literally just that was my bad.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good. We were cooking. You're cooking.
All right, peace.
So, all right. We're giving the Hoggies what they want.
Let's get
go.
it. We'll see you for the Patreon episode. Bye.
Peace.